It's Monday night. You know what that means? We're live right here for Pike's Pub on the internet, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, you name it. We're everywhere. And as always, we're here at Pike's Pub, 455 2nd Street Pike in Southampton, PA, for your live reaction show. What we talk about? We still hyped up over this classic Phillies win. Got a really big show planned tonight. I got a bunch of special guests hopping on tonight with us. We got Renee Washington, who covers them for PHLY Phillies. I got Carlin from USA Today coming on and talk a little Sixers. He's at the Wells Fargo Center right now. And then got my man Tyler Mroz checking in, who does all the pre and post game work right here for Heat Ratio Sports. I am Tony Cutillo. I'm your host for the next 3 hours. With maybe Frank joins us, maybe he don't. We know he maybe has a big head over big heads in one show. So we'll see if he's going to show up, and I'm pretty sure he will, and have some instant reaction, because I got to get. I'll tell you what, man. Some of his Facebook posts are. I don't know if he's auto posting or what he's doing, but he's got to be careful a little bit. But it's going to be some fun, man. We had an instant classic yesterday. Trying to take the poll of everybody. I know what's up, Adam checking in. As always, Javon checking in. As always, David checking in. Thank you very much. As always, yeah, man, we're having some fun here, man. Get down here if you can for the home of the $3 happy hour specials. So you want to make sure you get here. Pretty extensive menu. Got a bunch of TVs, got a bunch of pool tables, got a bunch of machines, and as always, got a bunch of fantastic people sitting around the bar waiting to hear what's going on with this Detroit and Cleveland game, which is still locked in. Another classic at 0-0. So we'll see who wins that game. But again, a lot of polls, in the city of Philadelphia, a lot of things that been said. Listen, we say it all the time, continue to say it. This team just they never die, man. They never quit. And they continue. I know everybody's still hyped up over it. I mean, listen, that's the kind of game that changes a series, right? That's the kind of game that changes a series. That's the kind of game, as always, that you could look at and say, this is when it clicked. And we needed that. We really did. I don't know about you, but it was about the 6th inning and I was done. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore, man. Like, this team, they're not hitting. They look like they're not with it. And all of a sudden, the legend himself, Bryce Harper, who just steps up and just continues. I don't know what the hell Severino was thinking when he threw some of those pitches, but listen, man, that's all we needed. That's all we need. We need that spark. And that's what it takes. Sometimes you get that spark, right? That's what it takes. Sometimes you get that spark. And now, to me, it's a series changer, man. The shift and the tide has changed. And one thing I want to say, and I say this all the time, I know you hate to say it because we're not Mets fans, right? Nobody's a Mets fan. And if you're a Mets fan in here, you need to leave. But if you are a Mets fan, I got to give you a little respect for your team, because you got to flip the hat. Whether the pitchers, whether the hitters. I mean, look, man, at the end of the day, this is a team who wants to win a baseball game too. This is the playoffs. So we can't just expect this team to come up and be absolute trash. They're the hottest team coming into the playoffs, right? And that's one of the things that people fail to realize sometimes. And I know it's really easy. I know it's easy to say we hate the Mets, F the Mets. You know what I mean? It's good. I get it. Listen, it's good radio. It's good content. But at the end of the day, they are a really good team. They're a dangerous team. And you've seen how dangerous they can be. And a lot of things in that game specifically that I think points out to how dangerous they are is how they could just go the power on the opposite field, right? I mean, look, they went power both times to the opposite field. And again, that is sneaky power. That's sneaky power that I don't think that a lot of people were taking in perspective. So, again, pitching for us, we should have the edge coming up with Aaron Nola. A lot of questions, too. Man, a lot of questions. See what everybody's thinking. Should Estevez been taken out? Right? Should Schramm been put in? Right? Should Bone been benched? I say he should have been benched. Right? I think that was a good move. And it is a benching. No matter what you think, it's a benching. It's a young guy who's hit. Listen, he's hitting hard. The wrist is a problem, too. If you don't think the wrist is a problem, that dude needs surgery. It's very apparent. He's lost right now. He doesn't have all the strength. But listen, when you're a young player and you're throwing negative injury out there, you're smashing your head. Again, Sean, what's up? Checking in. Sean says, Tony, I'm convinced there is something to say about the bye. Hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. When you do it at game speed for a week, It could take a day to get it back. That being said, the bullpen needs to get it together. Sean, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Like, and especially the way Topper uses the bullpen, right? That's one of the things that is very apparent, that he has a system and he's going to use the bullpen. He's going to use it a lot. And it's a bullpen for what? Say 85% of the year. That was one of the best in baseball. Would say 85% of the year. I mean, and then for some reason, all of a sudden, I honestly, I don't know what's going on, man. Schramm's not hitting that glove side like Rube said today. So true. Right, his fastball looks like he has a bad command. It's really, really high. It used to be about belt high, but now it's been really high, and nobody's chasing. Right, that's the thing. Nobody is chasing that pitch, and when people aren't chasing Schramm, the problem with him is people can hit that cuff fastball. So he's really got to be sneaky with it, and if he's not sneaky with it, people are going to hit him, like we saw what happened the other night. Here's a question: when do you use Alvarez? Do you use Alvarez at all? Right, with the new rules, man, once you bring him out, he's got to pitch. Like, he could walk 3 to 4 guys in a row. There's a lot of issues going forward. Like, you think about this, that we really have to really nail down and hope that they are corrected. O'Carkering again, he looked unhittable. Now all of a sudden he's getting rocked every time he comes in. Hoffman gets rocked. Like, that's not a good sign, man. Like, it's not a good sign. So we got to right this ship a little bit. It did come out today that starting wise, Ranger Suarez, no matter what, is starting game 4, Topper said. I don't know, man. Like, is that a good move or a bad move? We'll see. Ranger, listen, he was a Cy Young candidate for about 2 months of the year. And then all of a sudden, he went away, man. He went away, and velocity's down. Now, they say his velocity's back up, but listen, we'll see, man. Let's get to game 4 before we start talking about game 4. Sean checking in says, Bohm is a head case right now. I was against the move at first to sit him, and I don't think Sosa is the answer. The bench guy giving you the best at bats right now is Cody Clemens. I would start him at third tomorrow. He might not get a hit, but he rarely strikes out. Listen, man, right now, Sean, I think everything's on the table. Right, everything's on the table except throwing Zach Wheeler 140 pitches in game 1, which people are asinine when they start talking about that. And again, the dude threw 115 pitches. That, I don't care what anybody says, man. You have aspirations of a World Series game. If that's in the World Series, fine. But you got to get to the World Series, man. You got to win a division series. You got to win a championship series. And last thing you want to do is worry about winning game 1. Game 1. And it wasn't his fault, by the way. The bats did not hit. So we cannot blame Zach Wheeler. We cannot blame the bullpen, right? Yeah, they listen, again, they came in and were trash, but we didn't give any opportunity to do anything, right? So I think that was the right move. So I honestly don't understand why people want to make this guy's arm fall off in the first game of a division 5 games, by the way, 5-game series. So, yeah, I agree. I like the Cody Clemens move, Sean. I do. I think that everything's on the table. All the cards are on the table. Like I said, you just don't know, right? You just don't know. And you got to win this game. Like, it's a shame that they lost game 1 because everything now to me is must win, right? Everything now to me is must win. Like Sean says, if they lose tomorrow, Wheeler has to pitch 4 at some point. So even if you piggyback him and Ranger, that's a good point, too. If they lose tomorrow. But here's the thing. Topper said, no matter what, which means Ranger Suarez is pitching game 4, win or lose tomorrow. Win or lose. 5:08, by the way. 5:08 start time. 4 o'clock on third. I hate it. I understand it, but I hate it. The early game it sucks. It sucks for everybody around. It does. It's just so hard to get everything together to be able to sit there and watch that game. You got to leave work early. You got to worry about traffic. There's so many different things that go into play, and it just sucks that we have one of the biggest markets in baseball, and we're second nature. I get it, right? I get it, but it still sucks. But Sean, I honestly agree with you here that if they lost tomorrow, I would pitch Wheeler at 4. I would pitch him at game 4, man. That's why I wouldn't throw him 140 pitches, because I want him to be ready if he has to come right back. We can't lose this series. To me, this is going to be our toughest task. It's not going to be next round. This is going to be our toughest task. 100%. 100%. Oh, man, we're going to bring Tyler in. and we're going to talk a little bit. Let's change this background to get some baseball. Tyler Mroz, it does all the pre and post game work, man, doing some fantastic collaborations as well. Tyler, man, you were hitting it the other night. You hit some of the predictions, man. How you feeling? Are you still feeling the buzz on this game?
I am. That was one of the most stressful games I think I've ever watched as a Phillies fan. I mean, the only one that really comes close is that NLCS clincher against the Padres. That's really the only one that comes anywhere close to how stressed I was during that game and how much of an emotional roller coaster it was. But I did say pretty spot on minus the score. I did say Mets were going to go up by multiple runs and the Phillies were going to have a comeback win. So pumped, so happy that they did, because I really believe if they had lost last night that it would have been the end of the season, because I don't think they would have won 2 in a row in New York. But glad that we don't have to worry about that. Glad that Aaron Nola is going to be on the mound tomorrow. Ranger Suarez, I'm a little iffy about, especially if the Mets win tomorrow.
Yeah, what do you think about that? When he comes out and, like, Sean just checked in, and Sean said, he would love to piggyback if they, unfortunately, I don't want to say if they lose. It sucks to even say that, but if they were to lose tomorrow, that the possibility of bringing Wheeler back and pitching game 4. But Topper said no matter what, like he said, no matter what, Rangers my guy for game 4. Man, I don't know how I feel about that, bro.
I don't like them announcing that so far ahead of time. You won't know the Mets game 4 starter until after game 3. And that comes into huge because it's the way you game plan your lineup. Because, if you're going up against a lefty versus a righty, you might be like, all right, well, this guy's playing on this day, so we'll bench him now. And so he can play on, Wednesday? So I don't like announcing the pitchers for playoff series ahead of time, minus the obvious ones. I just think it gives the other team an advantage over knowing because it gives them more time to watch film, more time to really focus in on the pitcher that they're going to face. So especially if the Mets win tomorrow, I'm very concerned if Ranger Suarez is on the mound for game 4. I know he's been clutch in the playoffs. He was awesome for the first half of the season for the Phillies, but he's shown some issues with velocity, with command, with control since coming back from the injured list. So not a fan of Topper announcing it this early, but we'll see. We always question Topper, and it could turn out really well. He could be phenomenal, as he always usually is in the postseason.
Yeah, we're always questioning Topper, man. Everybody's questioning Topper, right? It's like just like the people think Wheeler should have pitched 150 pitches. Like I said that. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? Whatever. They all know more than everybody else, so I just let them go and let them have their moment. But breaking news: Joel Embiid not playing tonight. Shocker. And the preseason calls out breaking news: Paul George and Joel Embiid not playing tonight. Really cool. Tyler kicking on the other side. It's a 7:00 hour. I got Carlin on. Actually, did a record with him today, so I'm going to play that. Really good stuff, man. Talking about summer league, talking about the off season, the season coming up. He dropped some really good nuggets in this interview, so everybody's gonna like that for sure. But Tyler, were you ready yesterday, man? Like, I had a very eventful weekend. Not gonna get into that, but so very, very eventful. But when I was watching that game on Sunday, and honestly, the game, by the way, played out awesome, because obviously, when you're a football fan and you're a betting guy like myself, I got all my bets lined up for the 1:00 game. So I get to watch that, and then boom, I go right over to baseball, and then I go over to Sunday Night Football. That game was trash. Gets delayed, right, to 9:45, or it's crazy. But at any point, I know I was ready. I gave up. At any point, were you ready to finally say, you know what? It's just not their year, man. Like, for me, it was when Schwarber hit the ball. I thought was a home run. He didn't get enough of it, and then went to the track, and I was like, you know what? Baseball gods have spoken. I'm like, it's not going to be our series. And I was like, these guys are not hitting. And then all of a sudden, man, Bryce to the rescue, bro.
I won't deny it. I was very, very concerned. I was like, you know what? It's the 6th inning, back-to-back days. I'm like, I'm not giving up just yet, but I'm on the verge too. I said to my mom, who I was watching the game with, I said, if they don't get a run this inning, it's over. And then Bryce Harper hits the home run, and then Nick Castellanos back-to-back, and then there's life again. So that's why home field advantage is so huge. I know people like to get on the Phillies for it because they lost 3 in a row at home in the playoffs. But you look at yesterday, that one home run, that Bryce Harper, that one pitch, one swing of the bat can change the entire atmosphere of the ballpark, can change the entire momentum of the game, could change really the entire momentum of the series. And in the whole postseason, you could look back and the Phillies could be on Broad Street. And you're like, man, they were dead game 1. But when Bryce Harper hit that home run, that completely changed the course of the season. So I was concerned that it was almost over, but very happy that Bryce Harper came through. I preached it on the pregame show. I said, if there's one person I trust to come through in a big spot, it's Bryce Harper. And he did just that.
He did just that. Again. Speaking of Tyler Mroz, right here from Heat Ratio Sports, and his own the fresh slate, which we're gonna get into a little bit, which I can't wait to talk about. Can't wait to see that new revelation by Tyler. I love that everybody do some big things right here at Heat Ratio Sports. Make sure you're subscribing and liking the YouTube channel. Got some more, man. Got a big wrestling announcement coming up, Tyler. What's going to be interesting, man. Wait till you see the wrestling show we got going starting next week, which is going to be really, really cool. UFC coming to Heat Ratio Sports. Got a lot of different stuff, man. A lot of stuff on the side. But speaking of the Phillies, did you happen to see that idiot Keith Olbermann? Right, talking about Philly being ridiculous, celebrating like they won the World Series, and it's only game 1 or game 2. For the love of God, like, see, they're the kind of people that sneak clicks. You know what I mean? Like, please, people don't buy into it. Like, the narrative is always, we have the best fan base and the best following in the entire world, okay, when it comes to sports. And what happens is people, they pick fights with fans, with influencers, with radio hosts in this town specifically, so they can build up their following. And here you go again with Keith Olbermann coming out, just taking shots. And you know, it gets very tiring to hear the shots getting taken over and over again. The announcers, which are absolutely horrendous, right? I want to see if you picked up on something. So I was telling my wife we're watching the game, and I was losing it, right? I was like, these announcers, and I'm not saying I can't stand them, but they're just overmatched, right? I listened to Rob Ellis the other night, and Rob said the same thing, like, he was politically saying they're overmatched, right? There was one point where they talked about Sterling Marte getting on base and talk about how much of a threat he is to steal this and that. I was flipping out. I was like, do these guys not do their homework? Because if they did their homework, they'll know he's got a bad hammy. He's not stealing. He's not running 100%. And he didn't even take a lead. And I'm like, dude, these guys aren't even doing their homework, man. Do they annoy you as much as they annoy me? What's up, brother?
I like AJ Pierzynski as a commentator. I feel like he has the Tony Romo effect where he kind of talks too much at times. Yes. Where I feel like I'm listening more to AJ than I am Adam. Or both Adams, I guess. Not a huge fan of Adam Adden. I think he's good. I think he's a good commentator. I just don't think, like, at a postseason level, I'd rather hear other people. Adam Wainwright doesn't really talk much. I feel like I barely hear him during that. Broadcast, but I don't know. It just doesn't. They don't fit. Like, there was one at bat. I forget the specifics of it, but someone got on base, and then they went back to what they were talking to, like, the previous half inning, and it wasn't even relevant to what was going on in the game now. So I think they do need to do a better job with the broadcasting crew. I like Pierzynski. I think if he just tones down some things and gets sharp on the edges, I think he's going to be one of the best play-by-play analysts out there for baseball. Yeah.
So now that I agree with. I do.
He has a ton of knowledge. He has a ton of knowledge. I love some of the stuff he's saying. That's the first time I've heard him as an analyst on a live baseball game. I saw some of his interviews talking baseball in foul territory, but I mean, they just got to work on the little things. Even the production was a little bit off. There's a lot of blackouts and weird camera cuts, but Fox usually does a really awesome job with the MLB. So I was kind of surprised to see that. I am salty that we didn't get Joe Davis, though, but I get him with the Dodgers. I mean,
I know you're a Joe Davis guy, but I like man. I bring me some more John Smoltz. Like, I can listen to John Smoltz call a game any day of the week. Like he's giving you the insight. And I honestly thought Wainwright would be better because he was a really good calculated pitcher, right? So I thought, but they just kept missing on a lot of things, man. I didn't understand it, but AJ's listen, when you're a catcher, I always say this, when you're a catcher and listen, what a backup catcher for years and did play some first base, but when you're a catcher, you're smart, man. It's like JT. Like JT would probably be one hell of an announcer one day, like JT Realmuto. If he wants to be an announcer, he's going to be an announcer. He'll be that good because he's so educated. And I think that was what AJ is, right? But I think AJ was get like lost in the shuffle a little bit because he wasn't being led the right information. Now, looking at tomorrow, man, let's just look right into tomorrow. What are a couple things that you're still concerned about? Because for me, I asked this. Let's start off with this. I asked people here. I asked people online. I'm worried about Alvarado, like the decision on when and if to use him. I can't believe I'm saying if, when and if to use him, because he's not getting shown that he's going to be like in high leverage situations, right? So what happens? Do you feel like Alvarado is actually going to make his way back into high leverage situations? Or are you like, look, man, right now, I can't even trust it?
Right now, based on the first two games, I don't know if Rob trusts Alvarado at this point. You saw last postseason, they brought in Michael Lorenzen, but they didn't bring in Taijuan Walker. Why is that? Because Rob didn't trust Taijuan in the postseason. So I just don't know if he trusts him. It's 2 games in. He could pitch 3 innings tomorrow for all we know. I don't think Rob trusts him at this moment, but I also feel like the Mets don't have a ton of lefties in their lineup. Like they have Brandon Nimmo. Lindor's a switch hitter, but they're a primarily right-handed dominant lineup. So I don't think Alvarado, because Rob, he loves the righty-lefty, lefty-lefty matchups. So I don't think this series really provides that. I mean, if we had faced the Brewers, I definitely think you would have seen Alvarado by now. I don't know if he trusts them against the righties, but I still think we'll see him at some point, probably to face Brandon Nimmo at some point because he's really the only lefty threat in that lineup. Look at the line. Lindor's a switch hitter. Vientos righty. Nimmo lefty. Alonso first base. Iglesias Alonso first base. Alonso's a righty. Like the rest of their lineup is righties, and even their platoon, Bader and Tyrone Taylor, they're both righties. It's just Harrison Bader does better against lefties. So I don't think that Alvarado is going to be in a ton this series. You might see him once. That's all I think. But with how bad the rest of the bullpen's been doing, if Alvarado comes in tomorrow and he goes out, then I think there's a chance you see him more. But as it stands right now, I think you'll see Alvarado at most one time in the playoff, or not in the playoff, but in this series.
It's now I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but that's okay. I don't pretend to know what I don't know. But with the new rules, is it like are those rules carry over to the playoffs with pitching, right? So that's the fear I have. Right? Like it could be a freaking walk fest with this guy. He comes in for one. There's no more one batter and you're out. And I think Topper showed his hand a little bit. Was like, I don't know if I want this guy in there right now. That to me, man, that's one of your biggest pieces. And then you have O'Kirkering that looks like the pressure's getting to him. His pitches are a little off. I mean, you went from a lockdown bullpen to now has some major questions in the postseason.
Yeah, Kirkering wasn't good in the postseason last year. Has not been good this year so far. I don't know who steps up in his place because he's one of your top relievers, and he just does not look there yet. I'm sure eventually he'll get there, but I think it's just the young inexperience that he's had. He's a young guy, and pitching the playoffs, it's not easy. So I think that's something that'll develop as time goes on, but right now, there's very few guys coming out of that bullpen. I don't know why Estevez didn't close out the game yesterday.
That was interesting. What do you think? My dad mentioned that to me today before I came over here. Where he's like, I don't understand. Why didn't they leave Estevez? And I kind of thought the same thing. He was dominant. Yeah. And,
3 counts. 8 pitches.
I didn't get that at all. I thought he deserved to get another inning, at least another batter, right? At least you start with him and say, okay, if he looks like he's, his command's off, in the second inning, then you bring Schramm in.
That's
So
what
I
thought
would have
that was.
kept the Estevez in for 100%.
And you brought him in to be your closer. I mean, you
Yes.
had a closer by committee thing, but once Estevez came in, he was the closer. And I just don't get why you throw him in the 8th inning. I get it if he had thrown close to 20 pitches, over 20 pitches. That's a different story. But in a close game, in 2 games already where your bullpen has been constantly blowing leads and giving up runs, I don't get why he wasn't left out there for the 9th inning. And like I would have done what you said. Throw him at first, and if he starts to look off, have Strom ready to go, and then put Strom in. So very confused, very questionable bullpen management from Rob Thompson so far. And that is something that concerns me. Not just if the Phillies make it past the series, I think it's something to look out for because Rob has not done a good job with the bullpen so far.
No. That's one thing and I think that's where I have a problem. The only problem I have with Topper is the bullpen. And I know he's stuck in his ways. He's going to continue to be stuck in his ways. And listen, it's like a 50-50 shot here. It's not like it's always worked out for him, right? It's like a 50-50 shot. It's worked out. And the problem I have with that is it's such an integral part. And like you said, you go out and you trade away a couple prospects. You bring in Estevez, who you want to establish as your guy. You brought him in, and I get it, right? He's this guy who says, all right, 1 inning, that's it. No, man, like this the play. I'm not talking about Wheeler throwing 140 pitches, right? We're not talking about that. I'm talking about just bringing your closer in, okay? Especially when Hoffman got lit up the night before, right? You have a day off. It's not like you're playing the next day. So I was extremely confused at that as well. Now, on the flip side, what did you think about the decision to start Sosa and basically bench Alec Bohm, who right now, listen, I forget who it was, a shout out Steve, I think it was one of my guys on Facebook, said, he's hurt, he probably still needs surgery. I think he definitely needs surgery. I think he's trying, but he just mentally, man, he just don't seem right. And I actually agree with the move. What about you?
I was all for it because Alec Bohm has really struggled. He has not shown much fire in his at-bats. It's not like he's getting 10 pitch at bats and he's staying in it. He's grounding out, flying out, just missing the ball. He's going out there. He's swinging at the first pitch and he's popping out in foul territory. He did it twice yesterday. So I was all for it. Edmundo Sosa did not look good. I think but you can't throw Cody Clemens at third base. That's the thing. I don't know if I trust him at third.
That's what our boy Sean, one of a great guy, man, good dude, Sean. He said this earlier. He said right now he would start Cody Clemens at third. I hear you. It's tough.
It's tough.
It's like Weston Wilson at third, right? I mean,
Wilson does not work at third. No way.
He's a butcher out there. You can't do that, man. Like, it's such a tough call. Well, real fan, not to cut you off, but think about this. Or speaking of Sosa, what do they do with Stott? Are you telling me he's going to bench Stott tomorrow?
You got to keep him in.
You got to keep him in there.
I don't care what his splits are against lefties. You're coming off of that game. If the Phillies don't have Bryson Stott in their lineup yesterday, they don't win. Plain and simple. And I don't get how you can, because I'm sure that Minaya is not going to pitch the entire game. And I'm sure at some point the Mets are going to bring in a righty and might be saving him for pinch hitting them. But even his defense, he made that leaping catch early in the game. He is an impactful player, both offensively and defensively. I don't care if it's lefties or righties. You got to go with the hot hand. And in the postseason, coming off of that game too, you got to keep Bryson Stott in. Now, Brandon Marsh, I don't think he's going to be in tomorrow. I think it'll be Austin Hayes and Johan Rojas. But I don't think Bryson Stott should be out of that lineup whatsoever. You need to keep him in.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think I will really bang my head up against the wall if I watch that he does not, especially from a confidence standpoint, right? I mean, here's a guy who actually, look, that's a huge confidence booster right there. You bring it back to last year, against Miami. I mean, it's the same thing, but this is a big confidence booster. And this kid's young, man. Come on. And here's the thing that kills me. Like, I always said this, and maybe it's me just being old school and I'm not Generation Z or whatever the hell you want to call it. But don't you want to let these guys work through these situations like all year? Like, I don't think it was, this whole year didn't be predicated based on if he was going to hit lefties or not. But I think you had to give him that opportunity. I mean, he still steals bases. He still hits with pop, and he's one of the best defensive second basemen in all of baseball. So I didn't agree with that all year, and I especially hope that this doesn't carry on because I'll tell you, man, like he needs to be in there. And on the other side, Trey Turner, you got to give Trey a huge prop. And I know everybody's like, oh, what did he do? Listen, that last at bat, he knew he had to get on base. He knew he had to get on base, right? And he took some pitches he normally wouldn't take. He was very disciplined in that at bat. So I got to give it to him.
He was swinging at so many balls in the dirt all game. And when he came up, I said, please just get Harper up. If Harper doesn't get up, I don't think we're making it past this inning. And I think the Mets are going to take the lead in the 10th. I said, just get Harper up. Trey needs to just chill. If he has a pitch, swing. Great. If you get out, whatever. But if you strike out on a pitch that's 20 feet outside of the zone like he was swinging at for most of the night, then that's just unexcusable. And he was awesome in that at-bat. He took great pitches that he would, like you said, he would normally swing at and stuff that he was swinging at the entire game. So he got Bryce Harper up. He did his job and helped the Phillies win.
Yeah, man, he did his job and he helped the Phillies win, and that's what he's supposed to do, man. And then, as always, man, you might as well just rewind the whole thing back. Instant classic, our man Castellanos, who I keep saying this, and I'm going to continue to keep saying it because I was one of those dudes. I was on the Casty wagon a year and a half ago. I was burying people that were burying him. I said, bro, I'm telling you what, man, this guy will come through, man. Like, he doesn't stop. Like, he is just a professional hitter. That's what he is. He hits baseballs. It's like, yeah, remember the, I don't know if you're too young, but the movie Major League with, right, with Joe Bull, right? I get paid. I just hit baseballs, right? That's basically what Cassie does. He hits but the thing is, man, when he's locked in, and he's making plays for another diving catch like he did last year against Atlanta last night. So
always has one of those catches.
Yeah, he always does. So I gotta ask now, do you think the boos were a little unwarranted yesterday for him?
I don't think so. It's the playoffs. Nobody's hitting. Booing works sometimes. As you saw the standing ovation work, booing works. You saw what Alec Boehm last year. He didn't reach, or 2 years ago, wasn't reaching his potential. Fans were booing him after he was struggling. Gets caught up saying effing hates this place. Comes out the next day, fans give him a standing O. And look at him now. He's an all-star third baseman. And look at what Castellanos did. Booed him. He said, oh, these effing people. What does he do? He hits a home run to tie the game, and he hits the walk-off single. So sometimes booing works. That's just the Philly way. Cheering works, yes, but also booing sometimes works. That's just the Philly culture. They will let you know when you suck, and they will applaud you when you're doing great. That's just the way it is around here. And you see it works in cases like that.
Tough love, man. Tough love. I get it. I just, a guy, this guy's got literally five, which is unheard of, 5 game-winning hits this year. Just this year alone, man. 5. It's crazy how clutch he's been. Like, he's the guy that you went up. And I will say this, reading between the lines, I don't know if anybody caught this. Again, man, this is Heat Ratio Sports Live. I'm your host, Tony Cutillo. Make sure you're following at Heat Ratio Sports on all social formats. Subscribe, like the YouTube page. We're followed right here live from Pike's Pub in Southampton, 455 2nd Street Pike, right down the road. Make sure you follow them on Facebook and IG, and make sure you keep up to date with all the entertainment and get down here and join the show if you want. But like I'll say, Tyler, there was a lot of stuff from Bryce Harper under the lines I don't think people might have read into when he specifically said, we got to stop swinging at bad balls. We got to stop swinging. We got to be more focused. He was talking to the team. Like, Bryce was big. Like, he was talking to the team, man. He was looking at those specific players like Turner and Castellanos, saying, yo, you got to stop chasing, right? You got to stop. And again, even himself, so to speak, right? Because he admitted it. We knew what he was doing last game, right? In that at bat, we knew he was trying, right? He knew there were balls, but he was trying. But I think that's what the legend of Bryce Harper, which makes it so great. Now, looking at Mania tomorrow, it could go one of two ways, in my opinion. He could be scary good because he does, he has a lot of deception on his pitches, or he can get rocked like he did against us before. I mean, what way you see this going tomorrow, man?
I think the Phillies are going to feast on Sean Manaea. He does not have a good history against the team. I can't get specifics up, but I remember he pitched against the Phillies earlier this season, and Phillies hit him well. So you saw he pitched with the San Diego Padres in 2022 in the postseason. Phillies feasted on him then. I think the bats are going to come out hot. I think they're going to kind of die down as the end of the game goes. They're not going to be as hot, but I think they're going to score 3 runs within the first 5 innings of the game. So I think they're going to do well against Manaea. I know he's having a career year, but it's playoffs, and he gave up a home run first inning in the Brewers series. So I think it's going to happen again. I think someone's going to go deep within the first 2 innings, and I think they're going to score 3 to 4. I could even see them score more against him. So I think the Phillies are going to feast on Sean Manaea.
I like that. I do. Listen, it's going to happen one of these games, man. Like it is, right? I mean, they came in our house and put up 6 runs. Why can't we get in their house and put up 8? Right? It happens, right? I mean, I can see that, but real fast, man. This is crazy. Like I just get my buddies just alerted me about, and this is so off base, but this is what we do right here every now and then. Talking about that Hurricane Milton just went under one of the fastest rapid intensifications ever. It's now a catastrophic category 5, 175 mile an hour sustained winds heading for Florida. Not a single weather model predicted the storm would strengthen this quickly. Dude, this is crazy, bro. Like I don't know about you, but I'm scared of the weather. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm a big baby when it comes to the weather. I do not like high winds. I don't like thunder. I don't like lightning. I don't need a thunder buddy like Ted. I don't need any of that. I just don't like it. I just shot out because I have a lot of people. We have a lot of listeners out there. We got a lot of friends and family out there. Just be safe. Prayers go out. That's crazy, man. So that looks like it's going to be a horrific storm, man. It really does. And they just got over one.
Get hit head on.
Yeah. I mean,
he goes to University of South Florida for the first time in school history. They're making them evacuate. He has to be out by 8.
Evacuating the university?
Yeah. First time in school history.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think I looked and said it's going to be a category 3 by the time it hits Tampa. But I mean, that's the weather app. That's just looking on the radar. That could be.
Well, yeah, but the problem is with their, I'm not going to try to get in a whole weather related conversation here. Like I know what I'm talking about, but I just heard, they were saying even at a Cat 3, the problem is it's surge. It's the storm surge that it's just going to be horrific, and people are just going to be wiped away, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Again, thoughts and prayers go out to everybody out there in Florida, man. It's a beautiful place, and it's a shame what's happening. But as the world turns, bro, that's what we deal with. And speaking of tomorrow, that's why I think I agree with you, man. The Earth's going to shake tomorrow. I do. I think it's one of those Atlanta games. I don't remember. It wasn't in Atlanta, right? I think it was home, but where we would just feast it. But it was actually game 1 for Strider, right? Remember when we just obliterated them, right? I have that feel tomorrow. I do. And last thing I'll say about Manaea is he is that kind of guy that if he misses his spot, you will light him up. Like he's got to pitch the black. Like I always say, pitch the black of the plate, man. You got to throw that Greg Maddux style pitching out there. And if he does not do that, Tyler, he's going to get lit up, like you said.
2-2 with a 5.19 ERA in 6 starts against the Phillies. So they have feasted on him, and I think they're going to do it again. They saw him 3 times this year. 1 run, 6 runs, 3 runs, 2 home runs in the last 2 games. So doesn't have a good history with the team, and if he gets rattled early on, which I think he will, you have Kyle Schwarber, one of the best, if not the best leadoff hitters in MLB history. I think it spells disaster for the Mets tomorrow.
I do too, man. I do. I'm so excited, man. Like I'm really pumped. Really, really pumped. I mean, can't say it enough. This is Red October. It's what we live for. I will just, I will say this, just a err on the side of caution, people. Like, I'm not trying to tell you how to react. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but this is playoff baseball. Like, the other teams that made it whether you like them or not, they deserve to be there. So like, look what we're watching right now, Cleveland, right? Detroit. I mean, these teams deserve to be there. Oh, speaking of Cleveland, did you happen to see? Wow, Terry Francona, another coaching job.
Yeah.
I thought that dude was dead in the water, man. He's back again in Cincinnati. It's crazy, man.
I love that move for them.
Yeah, that's a good move. What, you like Tito? You like Tito?
I think he's one of the best managers in the entire league. I know Cleveland wasn't as good the past couple of years, but still, he's a baseball mind. It could be like a Tony La Russa situation with the White Sox, but I don't think it's going to be mishandled that much by all parties. But you have a lot of young guys. You bring in the veteran leadership. So I think it's a good it's a good first step for the Reds. They just need to make a big splash in free agency.
I like that, man. They do. Listen, they have some young talent on that team. They do. All right. I mean, they have some young pitching. And Tito, listen, you just said it, man. He's a student of the game. I can't believe he was here and then he goes to Boston and just starts breaking off rings, man. Like, it's crazy, man. Tito Francona is still alive. Tito Francona is still alive. I love it. I love it. Hey, man, let's swing the last couple of minutes here. Let's swing over to the NFL a little bit, man. I know we didn't have an Eagles game this week, but we got Monday Night Football tonight. But just before we even discuss that, just overall, man, the 5-0 Minnesota Vikings, bro. Like, are you? And how about the legend of Joe Flacco? Like, dude just comes in. He was running. He was throwing bootlegs. I was amazed at that game yesterday.
And of course, this was the 1 week I picked up Indy defense. Because the Jags, they've sucked all year. I know the Colts haven't won there since 2014, but you know what? Jags have been awful this year. Colts defenses look pretty good the last 2 weeks. They get me 0 points, so now I'm in a situation where I need Pat Mahomes to get less than 15 points tonight, which, I mean, based on the season so far, could be that way. Could we get that? But Joe Flacco is just unbelievable what he's doing at this age. He just comes in and he plays like, honestly, a top 10 quarterback in the league. He threw for 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Are you kidding me? That's your backup? You're starting Richardson over him? I'd start Flacco, honestly. If the Colts are serious about contending, I would start Flacco this year because Richardson has not looked that good. And he's out with a shoulder injury this week, was out most of last week. I think they should go with Flacco until at least he starts to come back down to earth. But is he going to come back down to earth? Because last year, everybody thought, he had those good games. He'll be back. And he was terrific for the rest of the year. And he's coming out this year, and he's playing even better. So at one point, do you go, maybe we should make him the full-time starter? He is elite. I don't care. He is elite.
He is elite, bro. Like, right now, he is elite. Like, he is a certified legend. I don't care what anybody says. Like, he just proves it. Year in and year out. Mrs. Mroz, second in love, she says, love me some Joe Flacco. Definitely a Flacco fan. Listen, how can you not, like, he's one of those guys, right? How can you not like Joe Flacco? Like, he just comes in and just gets the job done, man. And what you said, though, I want to get back to what you said because it's a pretty ballsy take, but I understand it, right? We're seeing what's happening with Andy Dalton and Bryce Young. Right, you see a veteran that's leading the team and orchestrating an offense, and you sign a guy, a running back, I might add you, to a big time deal in a position that goes away very quickly in the NFL. So you do need the win. So if Anthony Richardson is not that guy right now, listen, why not let Joe just go, man? I agree.
And you look at Michael Pittman, their best receiver, with Richardson. 4 catches, 31 yards, 3 catches, 21 yards, 4 for 36. When Flacco comes in, 6 catches, 113 yards, 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. They're getting him more involved. And last game against Jacksonville, they didn't have Jonathan Taylor. They had Trey Sermon, who was averaging less than 4 yards a carry. I think 3.8. I know he had a touchdown, but still, they didn't have a rushing offense yesterday. So the fact that it was a 3-point game, I mean, that's pretty impressive. You're leaving it all up to Flacco because you don't have the rush game. So you have to heavily focus on the passing game. And this guy's, how is he? Like 38, 37?
I don't even know, man. I stopped keeping track, man. You got to check it out.
39.
39. Younger than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's doing better. Rodgers does not look that good so far.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't throw interceptions, and he's throwing a lot of
3.
picks.
That's not good, man. But hold on, real fast. I want to tell you a funny story about, you just said Trey Sermon touchdown. So I had 2 parlays yesterday. Okay. Again, if anybody follows, make sure you give us a follow at PHLY Sports. I do all sports betting over there. You can hear me on Sirius. You can hear me on VSiN in Las Vegas on Tuesday nights. It's a lot of fun. And I had 2 parlays yesterday. The one I had, Tyler, was a 4-legger, all 4 anytime touchdowns. And it was at plus 33.56. Huge, right? Huge. And then I had another parlay, 2 legs, just a combo, right, at plus 1,300. Well, here's why I tell you this. So I needed either an Alex Pierce touchdown for the plus 1,300 or a Trey Sermon touchdown for the plus 33.55, right? So they threw the touchdown to Pierce, and I went crazy, right? And then I was like, oh, I hit one of them, right? Well, then they called it back, remember? Because they say he was out to 1. And then Sermon comes in, and I hit the plus 33.50, right? And then later on, I hit Alec Pierce for the plus 1,300, so I hit both of them. It was a crazy day in the Cutillo house, bro. Crazy day. I was making it rain like Pac-Man Jones in my basement. That's all I got to say. It was fun, bro. It was fun. So, yeah, my man Al checking in. Al, stay tuned, brother. In about 20 minutes, got a really good interview for you from Carlin, USA Today. I know you're a big fan, a beat writer for the 76ers. He's down at the Wells Fargo Center right now. Hit me up earlier. We did a pre-record for the show. He's going to join me live, but he couldn't do it, so I pre-recorded for it, so it's going to be fun. So make sure you tune in for that because they're playing their first preseason game tonight, which is fun. Yeah, Fred, my man Rich second in said, nice double hit. Yeah, it was a nice double parlay, bro. Nice double parlay. Actually, I full transparency, Tyler, I put it in from a hospital room on Saturday night. So I put that in. I was at the hospital like 2 a.m. Saturday, and that's where I put it in. So it was really nice to at least have some substance from that. But yeah, man, that was great. What about any other NFL news? Any other NFL that caught your eye from yesterday?
I think yesterday showed that Zach Taylor needs to be fired from the Bengals because that defense looks awful. Joe Burrow had probably one of, if not the best games of his entire career, 30 for 39, 392 yards and 5 touchdowns, and you still lose at home? They're 0-3 at home. The only game they've won is on the road. And in the NFL predictions video I made before the season, I said Zach Taylor, if they start off slow, he's gone. And I think this week, I get you're playing the Ravens. I get Derrick Henry and Lamar are insane. But they should have won this game. They absolutely 1,000,000% should have won. Jamar Chase had 10 catches for 193 yards. And you still lose that game?
Still.
Zach Taylor's a defensive guy. And if you're a defensive guy and your defense looks like a bottom, arguably the worst defense in the entire league, you need to go. They're 1-4. I think with the loss next week, I think he's gone. I think he has to be.
I'll tell you what, man. I know a lot of teams don't make moves in their season. I hope he's not, though, because I want Sirianni going so we can bring in Belichick, right? I don't want Belichick going.
Belichick would go to the Bengals.
You never know. You never know.
Nobody thought Brady would go to the Buccaneers.
Well, Bill wants to coach, man. I'm just saying, Bill wants to coach, and when he gets that opportunity, he's going to coach. And we're going to be sitting here watching a overpaid cheerleader up and down the sidelines wearing T-shirts and having a good time chewing gum, where we could be having a Hall of Fame Super Bowl win head coach right here to right this ship. But listen, we'll see what happens in Week 5, man. What's your feeling going into Week 5, man? Let's get you out of here on some birds, bro. What are you thinking this week?
Cleveland looks like probably, besides Jacksonville, the worst team in the league. Deshaun Watson looks unplayable. I mean, you look at the stats, they're not terrible, but if you're actually watching the game, Deshaun Watson just does not look good. I honestly think they should go to Jameis Winston, get them fired up. But if you lose to this team, they're not running the ball that much. Jerome Ford and Dante Foreman, 9 carries each last week. They're not really threats. If you lose to this team that lost to the Raiders without Devontae Adams, without Max Crosby, and you still lost that, and you're going to lose coming off of a bye to that team at home, make or break game I honestly think Sirianni, because if you see the same mistakes from the previous 4 games come out in this game and you lose it to Browns of all team, they're not the Browns of last year. They look like a bottom 5 team. They would have a top 5 pick in the draft right now if the season ended. They just don't look good. Stefanski hasn't been on his game. Ken Dorsey, not the greatest offensive coordinator. So if you come out and you lose to them and you're getting AJ and Devontae back, I think that's it. That's where you got to draw the line.
Well, we need to get Lane Johnson back because there's a guy named Myles Garrett that we need to worry about, right? I don't care that this dude's one of the best defensive players in football, right? And I'll tell you what, man, if Jalen Hurts going to hold on to the ball for 25 seconds and they ain't got no right tackle, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. I'm telling you, man, I remember it's so funny. You know, you remember last week when I kept saying who you're more concerned about, you know, the Eagles or Phillies. And I kept saying I was concerned about the Phillies. And I hit the switch, right? And they came out cold. But that didn't mean I wasn't still concerned about the Eagles, man. Like I actually shout out to, which is pretty cool. Shout out to Devin Caney, as always, from Fox 29 for putting me up on the screen when I was going back and forth with her. As always, she's fantastic. I don't know if you follow her, but she's been doing a hell of a job for all her coverage for the Phillies. Really great professional in the game. And, you know, it was about me being out. Like, I don't have a vibe, Tyler. Like, I have no vibe right now. Like, when we start the season, I had a vibe. I have no vibe. It's gone. I can't help that it's gone, but it's gone because they haven't done anything to keep me in there. And I'm concerned because I'm watching the Minnesota Vikings, right, go 5-0. I'm watching Joe Flacco, you know, going crazy and I'm watching our team making excuses after excuses after excuses. I don't know when it ends, man. I really don't.
They do have the most favorable schedule in the league for the rest of the season. They have the easiest schedule. They play Carolina, they play Jacksonville, they play Cleveland. So what's your excuse after that? I know you had tough teams. New Orleans and Tampa look decent. You lost to Atlanta. They're currently in the lead of that division. And Green Bay is a good team. But now you're going to start to play these lower end teams. I know you're going to have to face Cincinnati and Dallas and Washington, but what's going to be your excuse after this? Because if you can't beat these bad teams, you're not even close to being in contention for a Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal. And where does that start? It starts with coaching. You need to just dumb it down. Be simple. Don't be creative. That's how you lost the Falcons game. Like, oh, well, they're expecting a run, so let's do a play action. Yeah, we might stop the clock, but yeah, let's run this. I mean, it was, in hindsight, awful play call, but at the time, some people were on board with it. I was never on board with it. I was just saying, drain the clock, run it with Saquon. So I just think the coaching needs to dumb it down. And if they do that, I'm confident in this team. This team has all the talent in the world. They have two, I don't know if I would say very good, but they have 2 good coordinators. I just think Sirianni needs to say, look, we have to be simple. That's how I know you have to be creative in some ways, but look at San Fran, Kyle Shanahan, the most creative coach in the league. Mike McDaniel, is it McDaniel? I get McDaniel and McDonald. McDaniel.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah.
McDaniel's Dolphins. Them two are 2 of the most creative coaches in the league. Their offense is entirely creative, and they haven't won the big game. So you just need to be simple. Obviously, you have to be a little creative, but you have to be, first and foremost, simple, basic stuff. That's how you win football games.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And, you know, right here on Heat Ratio Live, we're here, Heat Ratio Sports at Pike's Pub Live right here. Make sure you're following Heat Ratio Sports on all social formats. And as always, on Facebook and Instagram, make sure you're following Pike's Pub for their week-long list of entertainment and food specials that you get right here, 455 2nd Street Pike in Southampton. But I just said Adam. Tyler, I will say this, man. We're just not just Philly, but we got some breaking news here that just hit the wires. And if you are a fantasy owner and you have Rashee Rice on your team, he's playing this year. Yes, there. Just from Adam Schefter right now says, after consulting today with doctors, there is a lot, and I stress a lot, of optimism that Rashee Rice didn't suffer a knee injury as significant as first believed. Rice will be put under anesthesia Tuesday to determine the extent of the injury, but the belief now is it could be a much shorter recovery timeline than originally thought. It's unlikely he will play again this season, but be ready for the playoffs. So, and I think that was always the key, right? If he played for the Indianapolis Colts, they're shutting him down. If he played for the Raiders, they're shutting him down, but it's the Chiefs. And listen, I hope it ain't as significant as it was, or maybe possibly they're just saying it's not as significant to the fact that it's not like a Nick Chubb style injury, right? Maybe just one ligament instead of three. So we will see. Now, here we go. I know Al's getting all fired up. Says that was an awful play call. Top 3 running back in the NFL catches the ball. We win that game. That was an awful play call, Al.
He didn't catch it.
Right. He didn't catch it.
Same
right?
thing with Alshon. I said that was a terrible. You should not have ran a play before the 2-minute warning. People were like, "Oh, that was a great play call. He should have caught it," but he didn't. So that's a bad play call. That's just how I feel about it. Sure, yeah, the play may have worked if you catch it, but if you caught it, but the person catching it, Alshon the receiver, Saquon the running back, they didn't do their job. They didn't catch it. So in hindsight, yeah, it's a bad play call because the play didn't work out, and you lost the game both times because of that. So that's where I go back to.
And by the way, who called it? By the way, right? Like, let's think about this. It was who called it? Because I'm very curious on who called that play, and we'll never know. Right? We'll never know. And again,
I think Sirianni did.
Yeah, I do too.
Because he said that the Falcons were bunching up in the middle, so they didn't think they would have a good chance with Saquon. So they're like, we have to go to the outside. Let's just run play action. I think. I know Sirianni said something about that, but I don't know if he was the one that actually made the play call.
I don't understand how a coach doesn't know the term kill the clock. Right? We all talk kill the clock. Right? Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, at the end of the day, you don't prepare for what's going to happen. You prepare for what's not going to happen, right? That's the way I've always coached. And I always prepare to say, if it doesn't happen, now what's going to happen? And that's why you don't throw that ball. I don't care if he catches the ball or not. It doesn't matter, man. And Al, listen, I love you, bro. I do. And Al says, if that was Jerry Rice, would you say that was an awful play call? No, yeah, I would. The call, it's not about the player. See, that's the problem. We're all talking about the player. We're all talking about the player. Let's take the player out of the equation. Let's take the coach out of the equation. It's a terrible call. It's a terrible call, right? At the end of the day, it's a terrible call. I know we're past it. It's over, but it just shows, in my opinion, the incompetence of what's going on right now, right? We cannot afford those. Listen, you can't afford those mishaps, man. You just can't. It just can't happen. And again, you talked about, we're seeing it all over the NFL, but we see it firsthand right here. Rich says 97% chance of winning if they ran the ball and drained the clock, right? Al says, and Al, yo, man, listen, anybody checking in, I love it. Call line is open. You don't need a camera. The link is in the threads. You literally just click on it from your phone, and boom, you could talk audio. I could plug you right in. I'm not saying you have to, but if you would like to call, we're open. Lines are open. But Al says, when Doug was aggressive in the Super Bowl, everyone loved it. He's aggressive. You all trash them. That's a completely different scenario, man. And by the way, Al, you know I'm not a Dougie P guy. Right? I was one of the ones that wasn't loving it. You know that. I wasn't a Dougie P guy. And you see what's happening right now with Dougie P, right? Again, at the end of the day, all I'm saying is this was the call. It was not the player. It was the call. And I'll tell you what, that's what concerns me going forward.
I'm very concerned with it because you're the head honcho and you're making decisions like that. And it's not like a one-time only thing where it's like, oh, he doesn't do that. He does it pretty often. You're like, why is he doing this? Why is this happening? So it's definitely something to be concerned about. I know I am, especially against lower end teams that could have bounced back, like Cincinnati. They're not going to be they can't be with an offense that good. They just need one game and they could turn it around. So like I said, he just needs to be simple. Like Rich, 100%. There's a time to be aggressive and there's a time to play smart fundamental. That I can't even say anything after that. That just took all the words out of my mouth. That's perfect. That is literally the perfect sentence to say. It's facts.
Sums
It's
it up.
100% facts.
100% facts. There's a time to be aggressive and a time to play smart, fundamental football, man. Listen, I can't say it enough. And I'll tell you what, man, if this team, I think we can all agree on that. If this team comes out flat, right? If this team comes out flat, can we all agree that we're going to be extremely, I would say, perturbed at I got to do a better job. It was my fault not to get the team ready, right? I mean, again, Al says, if you follow me, I put up his winning stats. All he does is win. Are we talking about Dougie P again? Al's such a huge Doug Peterson guy, right? He loves Doug Peterson, man. I don't know. He ain't winning that much in Jacksonville, Tyler. That's all I'm saying, right?
I think that's more so Press Taylor, but I don't know how much of that's Doug or how much. I think
another
Press Taylor might have something on Doug Peterson because he got fired. That's the reason he got fired in Philly. He ruined Carson Wentz. He ruined Carson Wentz, and now he's ruining Trevor Lawrence. And I just don't get if Doug brought in a competent offensive coordinator that wasn't just running inside zone and runs up the middle and just making awful play calls in the goal line. I think they would be fine. They would be a good team. I know their defense needs a complete overhaul. They need a better receiver. Christian Kirk's awesome. Gabe Davis, I'm not a huge fan of. Brian Thomas.
You see him yesterday?
He looks awesome.
He's unguardable.
They need a physical receiver. Brian Thomas is the speed guy. You got Christian Kirk in the slot. You need that guy that's going to go up and get it, much like A.J. Brown. So if I'm the Jags and you think you have a chance at making the playoffs, why not go out there for Devontae Adams? Why not? I feel like if you feel like this is the best Jags team you've ever assembled, why not? He would fit perfectly in that offense, be that number one. And then you got to worry about Kirk, Evan Engram too, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, who's having a breakout year. So I just think you get a competent offensive coordinator in there. I think that team's fine. I really do. I don't think it's on Doug.
No, I listen. I agree and disagree. Put that way, because I do. It's hard for me to give Doug any credit, man. I'm going to be honest with you. Just as a coach, I don't think. I think he stumbled over a Super Bowl, man. I keep saying it. I'll be honest. I think there was a lot more moving parts than Doug Peterson to win that Super Bowl. And I still can't believe he has a statue. Whatever. Maybe I know a lot of people hate on me for that, but it's the way I feel. It is what it is. Al says, no, not Doug. I'm talking about Nick. Beg me if I'm mistaken here, but isn't Nick Sirianni like 3-8 in his last 11 games? So you're saying all he does is win? I don't know if that's all he does is win, Al, because that's not what he's been doing lately, man. It's something is off on the team, which we consistently say. Something is off on the team. And listen, I don't know what it is. Okay, I'm not sure what it is, but something is 100% off. And we're going to find out when we don't want to find out, if that makes sense, right? Like after, unfortunately, the way we're going to find this out is when it just completely goes to hell. And then all of a sudden, then we're going to find out, right? And that's what stinks. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait. Now, here's a question that a lot of people online keep asking, and a lot of people ask me all the time is, will they make a move in the middle of the season? Well, no matter what, are they going to ride out Nick Sirianni for the entire year, or will they be bold enough to say, you know what, we need to make a move now? Do you think that this team has it in them, meaning Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, to say, you know what, if like say they lose the next 3 in a row, and now we're sitting here, right? We're sitting here at 2-5, and then 2-6, and then they lose again. Like, when is going to be the time when they say, oh, you know what, man, we got to make a move now? Or do you think they ride this out all year?
I don't know if they make a coach. I think they should make a coaching change, but I don't think that they will, because I think they still have faith. There's a reason Sirianni's still there. So they have some kind of faith. But until they completely lose that, I don't think he's going anywhere. I want to draw a little bit of a comparison here, maybe. Nick Sirianni and Taiwan Walker. Taiwan Walker won games last year. It's a little random, a little bit out there, maybe.
All right, I like it. Go ahead, man. I like it.
Taiwan Walker last year, he won games for the Phillies. Wasn't the greatest pitcher, but he won. Nick Sirianni, that was the biggest argument. He wins games. He might not be the greatest coach, but he wins games. Now you look at them both. They're not winning games. So what do they do for you? They're causing you to lose games. I know we are 2-2. We very easily could be 0-4 right now. That Packers game, I think it was fine. Nick had a fine game then. But the Saints game, Nick left a lot of points on the board and very easily could have lost that game. Very easily. So we could be 0-4. And we could be 4-0. But I think it's the coaching decisions. It's all about a matter of, I know, winning. But look at them both. They were winning. Now they're not. So you look at them. If they're not winning, which is what they're known for doing, what are they doing? Because Nick, he call the offense? Well, apparently doesn't. But he does? Like, what are you doing for the team? So that's just maybe a little bit of a reach. But at this point, it's just, what are you doing well for the team?
Exactly. Like right now. Like what, and that's what we all have to ask, right? Al, a lot of people checking in. Al says, make a change based off of what? It's been 4 games. Everybody needs to relax. No, see, here's the problem, Al. You keep saying forget about last year. You know how you forget about last year? You come in and you look like a different football team and you win some games. That's how you forget about last year. You can't forget about last year if you're doing the same damn thing that you did last year, even worse, if you say you made all these changes. So it's very hard to say just relax, right? When we were been given this time and time again, right? Javon says if they lose 3 straight out of the bye and look bad, I can see Lurie in his press box, pissed and itching to make a move. I'm telling you, Jeffrey Lurie, he put a lot of money into this team, man. He gave Howard the keys, put a lot of money, and he doesn't want to be embarrassed. He may not be Jerry Jones, but he don't want to be embarrassed. So I'm sorry. I think this could be. A lot of people didn't think that that Jeffrey Lurie was going to bring in Chip Kelly, right? A lot of people said, no way will he give the keys and bring in a guy like Chip Kelly. He did something uncharacteristic because he said, I want to be the next coming. I want to be the next revolution in the NFL. And you look at this, I think it could be the same thing where, yeah, he may not normally do this, but I again, Javon says, Sirianni gives me Doc Rivers vibes at this moment. It's tough, man. It's tough because this is where we're at right now, man. This is where we're at.
Doc Rivers.
And speaking of Doc Rivers, we're gonna come back on the other side in about we're gonna go about 5 more minutes. We're gonna come back on the other side with some Sixers talk because tonight is the preseason game against New Zealand, by the way. And I have an interview to play for everybody that I really, really like. So make sure you tune in the line. You continue to listen up. Carlin from USA Today. He joined me straight from the Wells Fargo court today. And we had some really good, about 15 minutes, some really good insight to players, to Joel Embiid, obviously to Paul George, and a lot of the bench pieces that he mentioned a couple names I honestly forgot about. Brought us back to 2015 at Detroit Pistons. So did a really, really good job with that. Al says, we play the Browns, Giants, Bengals. We have 0 shot at losing all 3. He says 0 shot. I will say this, that we have a chance to lose against the Browns, okay, only because if the defense for the Browns, when the pass rush shows up and they get to us, that could be a problem. The Giants is an NFC East game, right? Whenever you have an NFC East game, you never know, right? You just never know where it goes. And the Bengals, Tyler, you said it. I mean, yeah, their defense is trash, but guess what? Their offense could put up 40. So I'm not saying all 3, but listen, there's a shot we can lose any one of those games, right?
I don't think we're going to win. As of right now, I don't think we're going to win the Bengals game. But that's 3 weeks ahead. Everything could completely change. So I'm not going to go that far. But the Browns look awful. And if Lane Johnson should be back. A concussion, you're usually out 1 game, maybe 2. But there's been 2 weeks in between since Lane has last played. So I'm fully expecting him to be back. But like you said, the Giants, NFC East game, anything could happen. There was a couple years ago where the Giants were awful. Yep. And they pretty much dominated the Eagles all season long. So I don't know. They just beat the Seahawks in Seattle. So why wouldn't they
place to win? Not an easy place to win, right?
Not easy at all. And Daniel Jones has looked pretty solid the last 2 weeks.
He's serviceable.
He's serviceable. Right. He's doing his job.
Yep.
So they kept it close with Dallas. I mean, I know Dallas isn't a great team this year, but they still keep it close. They've kept it close the last couple of weeks, and they've looked decent. But this week, the Browns, you have to win that game. I don't think you'll lose that game. I don't think they are, but no, it's tough because anything could happen. They have a defense that is a game changer. I know they haven't played like it this year, but there's something in there. They have Denzel Ward. They have Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is the best pass rusher in the league behind Micah Parsons. So
I agree.
It's tough. It's really, really tough. But what Rich said, I kind of agree with that too.
Howie won't get a coach with total control. He doesn't want to get put back in the broom closet again. That's what Rich says. As always, Rich checking in front of the program, my guy. It's so true, man. Like I could see it because that's what happened with Chip, right? It definitely, and it could be what happens with Bill because Bill is going to want total control, even though I don't know if he does. I think that's a blanket statement right there. I think, honestly, I don't think he wants total control. I think he just wants to prove that he can win without Tom Brady. That's what he wants. He wants to show everybody I can win without Tom. So he wants to go to a situation where he's got the best opportunity with a quarterback that he can win, right? So then they can't just say it was Tom Brady. He's not going to go somewhere. He's not going to go to Denver like Sean Payton did. And by the way, man, Sean Payton, like, I talk all sports. That's what we do here at Heat Radio Sports, not just Philly. We talk everything. Sean Payton is putting on one hell of a coaching clinic this year with Bo Nix. I don't care what anybody says, man. He knew Russ wasn't his guy, and he knew that he wanted to reinvent this team. And I don't know, Todd, if you watched any of that game, but to be able to win football games with a guy that's as limited as Bo Nix right now, it speaks volumes to that dude's coaching ability, man.
They're on a 3-game win streak. They just dropped 34. I know it's against the Raiders, but I mean, they were in it with that game against the Jets. They didn't have a great performance on offense, but they still kept it. They were in the game and they won. That's all that matters is winning. And they looked phenomenal in the Bucs game. Bo Nix looks like he's going to be a solid quarterback for years to come. And I think that's a lot of credit to Sean Payton. If he had come in and it was Nathaniel Hackett, that's a completely different story. It's Sean Payton. Sean Payton is one of the best offensive minds the league has ever seen. A lot of people love to call him overrated, but I wouldn't go that far. Yeah. Javonte Williams is looking at least back to being a serviceable running back. They don't have the greatest receivers. I'm a big Cortland Sutton guy, but I don't think he's the number one of an offense. So if they weren't in the same division as the Raiders, I would maybe see them as potentially a Devontae Adams spot because they're 3-2. They're in playoff contention. But like Al said, the defense is very good. Pat Surtain is the best cornerback in the league. It's not Sauce Gardner. It's not Jalen Ramsey. It's Pat Surtain. 2 interceptions and a pick 6 yesterday. Teams don't throw it his way at all. They would rather take a chance at their lower end receiver than, say, a top receiver just because Pat Surtain is there, because Pat Surtain is just that good. So they have pieces. I said I don't think they're going to be a playoff team this year, but next year I think they're going to be there.
I love Pat Surtain, man. I'm a corner guy, right? I love the evolution of the cornerback, but he's the old school corner, man. He can play it all. He can play. He's not like Slay. He's afraid to tackle, right? This dude is up in your mug on every play, or he can play all 5 yards, right? He can do that. He's going to cheat a little bit, but he's going to play very, very smart. Remember, there was a guy in his prime in Champ Bailey out there in Denver that played one hell of a corner, for the Denver Broncos. I mean, and now you're seeing Patrick Surtain, and I agree, man. He is the best corner in all of football, and he's young, man. Like he's young. Al checking in says, Al, all that matters is winning, except for in Philly sports. I don't understand that, man. Like, we want to win, right? We 100% want to win. And we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into our fandom to be able to win. And I don't understand why that's such a bad thing. But the problem is, when we put that in, we expect you as a professional baseball or football or basketball or hockey or whatever sport it is to give that back, right? And when we don't get that back, we get highly upset. Just think about it. Think about your relationship with your significant other, whether it's marriage or, just a relationship, right? If you're no reciprocation, whatever it is, are you going to be happy? Are you going to be happy that that person's not giving you back the same amount of energy that you're giving? So yeah, that's right. That's why we are who we are. Right. So we'll never discount the fact of why we are the best fan base in America. And I do agree with everything we do. And by the way, for all the Twitter trolls out there, and everybody checking in, that is behind the wall and doesn't want to comment, but I know they're watching. Okay. And the people that talked about Philly, what about what happened at the Dodgers last night? Right? What about what happened with the Dodgers last night, where throwing beers and baseballs at the left field, they had to stop the game, get secured. Nobody's talking about that though, right? If that happened at CBT at Citizens Bank Park, it would be on every news channel in America. It would be over the hurricane talk. It would be, here we go again in Philly, but that doesn't happen when it happens somewhere else. So I get very, very perturbed at that, man. Did you see that, Tyler?
I did. Real quick, I want to make a point on this because I did say with the Jets game, they didn't look good on offense, but they won. That's all that matters. And I know that's probably where the comment was stirred from, but that was one game. The Eagles could have easily lost both games they've won this year. And that's where I'm saying they haven't had that convincing, dominating win. The Broncos have had two of those. One of those was against the Buccaneers, who steamrolled the Eagles. So that's just my point. That's why I was making the point I was trying to make was that it was one game for them, and they've looked great in both games they've won. But with the Eagles, yeah, obviously winning is all that matters. But when you're winning in the way that you're winning, it's obviously going to come to an end at some point. Look at last year. They were 10-1, but they weren't always convincing wins. There was still stuff where you're like, I didn't feel like that team was 10-1 when they were 10-1. I'm like, yeah, they're good, but I don't feel like they're that good. They're not a 10-1 team. And what happens? The collapse. And you get blown out in the playoffs. I don't know how they blew that lead, but they did. They blew that 10-1 divisional lead. So that was just my point, was that it was one game for the Broncos where they didn't look good, but they still ended up pulling through. And you need to win some of those games because you're not going to win every game convincingly. But when it's every game that you're like, wow, we really easily could have lost that game, and that's every game, I think that's saying something. But with the Dodgers thing, disgusting. The reason it's not everywhere, it's because it's not in their narrative. Because it's not in their narrative that LA fans are trash and they treat players like garbage. Because it's not in their narrative. But if it was Philadelphia, because that's the whole narrative around Philadelphia, is that, remember the time they threw snowballs at Santa Claus? People still bring that up.
Oh, so
people just need to look at what's happening right now. Philly, people are coming here because they want to play here. Paul George, Bryce Harper, you got Saquon Barkley. You have people that want to play here. Different narratives from 1952. So I just why would you pay all that money to go to a playoff game? Because I'm sure in LA it's probably a couple $100, especially sitting at that close. You're gonna throw trash at the players. How classless can you be? That's just ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Whoever did that should be banned from any sporting event for the rest of their life. That's just awful.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. It is. Al says Nick has the highest winning percentage in Eagles history, but everybody wants to fire. Man, listen, you can't base his winning percentage on 2.5 years.
Look at Doug though.
What's that?
Doug won the only Super Bowl in Eagles history, but it was time to move on. It was time to move on, and
moved on from Andy Reid.
Yeah,
Right, we knew. And listen, that doesn't mean I love Andy Reid, man. I'm good for him. I have no problem. But there's a time, man. You see it, and right now, the sad part is, the last thing I'll say before we take a break is, it's one of two people. It's Nick Sirianni or it's Jalen Hurts. Okay, there's a big issue right there. And one of them's going to, if this does not right the ship, one of these guys is going to go, and you're not going to get rid of Jalen Hurts. I'm just telling you, it's just not going to happen. Okay, so at the end of the day, Nick's going to be the dominant of fall. And the one thing that scares me, Tyler, the one thing that does scare me is, originally I thought, how the Eagles always bring in that external consultant or the coordinator that could step right in and be a head coach. And I thought, oh, you know what? That's Vic, man. That's why they brought Vic Fangio in. He shows me he can't lead right now. He's not going to be able to relate to the players as the lead dog. Okay, so I'm just a little concerned that we're going to ride this out for the entire year, and then we're going to be in trouble, man. I'm a little concerned.
Well, Vic, I mean, there's coordinators that are better off as coordinators. And he went to Denver and did not do a very good job there. So there's a reason that people are strictly coordinators. You look at someone like Nathaniel Hackett. He was great in Green Bay, but becomes a head coach for the Broncos and gets fired before the end of the season. So there's just people that are better off as coordinators. And I think Vic Fangio might be one of those people. I don't know. He could come in and he could lead this team in the playoffs. You never know. You could have Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore's never been a head coach. You give him a chance. But, I mean, these are all hypotheticals. But you got to look at these backup plans just in case. You always got to have a plan B. Just like Triple H said, there's always a plan B. So yes. I think it's Fangio right now if that's the case, because I don't think they would bring in a whole new system and all that. I do think it would still be Fangio and just have 100% Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. Vic Fangio is still defense and has head coaching duties as well. But all hypotheticals. Obviously, I hope none of this happens. I hope we turn it around and Nick Sirianni wins Coach of the Year. Obviously, that's what I want, because if we're rooting for someone, then we're terrible fans. We're just as bad as the rest of them. But
no, listen, I say all the time, like, it's funny. I say all the time, like, look, I'm like, I hope I'm wrong. Like, I don't want to be right, bro. Like, I don't want to be right. Like, I don't want to think that this Eagles team is not what we thought it was. I don't want to think that. I hope I'm wrong. Like, what am I going to bask? Oh, see, I told you so. No, dude, I'm being an idiot then, right? Now, if it's fantasy football and I tell you, you don't, I'm going to go, yo, bro, take the L. Okay, I'm definitely going to do that. I'm going to brag when I told everybody to draft Saquon Barkley as their number one pick on Sirius. And my Sirius guys all told me, oh, you're crazy, you're biased, and Philly, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, how's that Christian McCaffrey looking right now, by the way? But real fast, Javon says, which is interesting, I never thought about this. He says, maybe it's not Vic. He said, maybe Kellen Moore becomes that next head coach if they were to make a move and if it goes bad. You know, what I would say is, why hasn't he had a chance to be a head coach yet now? Right? Like, that's what always scares me.
Same thing with Eric Bieniemy. Everyone was like, oh, he should be a head coach. And why isn't he? Why hasn't he gotten the job? So he had the best offense in the league for a couple of years with Dallas, and he still wasn't getting jobs. I get maybe people thought he was too young at that point, but I don't know. I don't think in this kind of series, unless you if all hypotheticals, obviously. If it's towards the end of the season and the Eagles don't have a shot at making the playoffs, then I think you have Kellen Moore. But if you're still trying to win, but you're not all that confident in Sirianni goes, then it's Fangio. I just don't – this season is too big of a risk for Kellen Moore because you don't know. He could be the best coach in the league. He could be decent, could be off. You never know. But the only way I see this happening is if it's the end of the year and the Eagles have no chance at making the playoffs. Or it's – close maybe, and they're like, you know what, let's just give him a chance.
Listen, I agree, Tom. I don't want to put you on the spot, brother, but I know you came on here for like a 20-minute segment, and we're rolling. There's a lot of people checking in. We have over 100 people watching on live. We got comments coming in all over. I was going to take a break, but I'm actually not. But I would not be. Listen, Renee, you got something going? Let me know. Drop off. Not a big deal. I have no issue. I'm just going to keep rolling right now into the probably about 7:45. Then I'm going to take a break, play Carlin. Then I have Renee Washington coming on live, joining me at about 8:30. So you're cool to hang for 15 minutes more. If not, it's up to you, man. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Cool, man. Let's go, man. Because we got Rich checking in. Yeah, Rich is right. He says, I hope they win every game for the rest of the season. Gladly say I'm there, bro. I said, I'll eat crow any day of the week, man. Now, real fast, I like this, man. Al is our Sixers guy, by the way. So if you have not met Al, you're going to see Al. Al is one of the most passionate fans, that quick to tell me to shut up and tell me I'm out of my mind when it comes to the Sixers. Okay, which is cool. It's all good. I love it. And he has a lot of great insight when it comes to the NBA. He says Maxey looks great so far in their preseason game, which Maxey is playing. Obviously, no PG or JoJo. And again, we're going to have Carlin on in a little bit. I have that interview to play for you. You'll really like it. It's a really, really good one. But you know what? Let's keep it there for a minute as we go into the intermission here. Sixers. You know, me and you have never really talked about the Sixers,
No.
Tyler. And I don't know how big of a basketball guy you are. Okay, but I'm a really big basketball guy. And I've been hurt a lot. Okay. I've been hurt a lot, right? I think we all say we've been hurt a lot. And the Sixers October 23rd open up, man. The NBA opens up. Like, we're coming up to a time where we're gonna have the Flyers, the Sixers, right, the Eagles all playing at one time. Hopefully, after we win a World Series, right? So let's hope that's or we're in the World Series at that time, which is probably going to be the case. So looking at this team, and I got to give a shout out to the Delaware Blue Coats, like I always do, because they took a shot on me last year. My man Alex Yo, vice president of the team, and Joe Richmond, ambassador of basketball operations. They brought me into the Blue Coat family, and they gave me basically the keys, man. To the Chase Fieldhouse Center. Whenever I want to go, I want to go see the Globetrotters. I want to go here. I want to go see there, man. They treat me like royalty. We do the Blue Coats Beat, which is a podcast me and Coach Joe do. We're just starting on season 2. We've interviewed guys like Sonny Hill, who was a fantastic interview. Sweet Lou Dunbar, which runs the Harlem Globetrotters. Sharif Abdul-Rahim, the president of the G League. Some fantastic interviews we've done over time. Just great basketball insight. But Tyler, that brings me to this, man. This year, are you starting to get excited for the Sixers, man?
I do it every year, and I fall flat on my butt because it's the same thing in the playoffs. It's been the same thing since Embiid's taken over. But there's something different about this team.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like they finally have depth. They finally have a star that fits. Obviously, you have Ben Simmons with Joel Embiid for years. They didn't really fit each other. They both crowded the paint a lot. But then you bring in Harden. He was a good fit. But the roster, I don't think was deep enough. Now you have that star that fits. Paul George was a phenomenal ad. A lot of people don't like the contract, but I was a fan of it because you're trying to win now. Joel Embiid has a window, and it's closing pretty soon. You have Maxey, who's better and better every year. Love him. Love that we drafted him. Love seeing him get some playoff minutes when he was still in his rookie year? It was on his rookie year, of his second year. And he just gets better and better every year. Now he's an all-star, and I think he has a legitimate shot at making an all-NBA team this year. And you have the depth. You bring in Eric Gordon. I mean, I know he's not probably going to be
huge,
but still, he's a guy off the bench. Caleb Martin, huge ad. Andre Drummond is one of, if not the best backup centers in the entire league. And that's the biggest issue the Sixers have in the playoffs. No matter how well Embiid is playing, it's always when he goes off the floor, the team just does not play as well. And you have someone like Andre Drummond. It's not going to be Paul Reed or DeAndre Jordan getting those backup center minutes. It's Andre Drummond, someone who can still play at a high level. So I just love the additions they made. So happy they brought back Oubre and Lowry. Love them, especially Lowry. Lowry at times I felt like him and Maxey were the only people that wanted to win in the playoffs last year. Yep. That's the way he looked. He hustles. He's got grit. And he has championship level mentality. He's won it before as the number 2 option.
Hello.
So I love that. I love all the pieces they brought in. I think it's up to Joel Embiid. I really do, because I'm confident in Nick Nurse. I'm confident in Tyrese Maxey. I just need to see what Nick Nurse does with this team. He's won it before, so let's do it again with the Sixers.
Yeah, man, I agree. I do. I think, got a lot of comments to get to. Rich says, I think Maxey takes the next step in his progression. I so agree. The kid is a student of the game. He really is. Rich also says the Sixers team has the deepest roster in a very long time. And I so agree with that. Like, I was asking Kai that earlier when I interviewed him, and talking about the depth, and you mentioned it, right? And I brought up the Topper reference. Topper always says battle tested. These guys are battle tested, right? Well, you bring guys like Caleb Martin, who is battle tested. You bring guys like Eric Gordon, who are battle tested. Andre Drummond, battle tested. Reggie Jackson, battle tested. This is one of the deepest, if not the deepest team of the Joel Embiid era I still say their best shot with a win was the Jimmy Butler year. But if you look at the entire team on paper and 39-year-old Kyle Lowry as well, who shouldn't have to play the amount of minutes he played this year because of guys like Reggie Jackson. Then, another step forward like Ricky Council Jr. Okay, another young guy coming over from the Blue Coat. So a lot of good things to go on with this roster. Al says on paper means absolutely nothing. This team needs to get chemistry on the floor and work hard. The first 25 games will be huge. I agree, man. Like I do. The chemistry is definitely, we've seen it before, right? When the chemistry has been off. And I am very excited. I actually purchased my season ticket game plan again this year, specifically, not just a partial. I don't have deep pockets like that, but just a partial for me and my two sons. So I can't wait to be down there for a lot of games this year. And, just to see that trio, Tyler, of Maxey, George, and Embiid. I don't think we understand. Sometimes I say this, I don't even think people understood the magnitude of Jimmy Butler when he got here until he got here. And I don't think the people understand the magnitude of Paul George until he gets here and you watch him play. Because the teams he played for before the Pacers or after the Pacers or West Coast teams, unless you were a big NBA season guy, you didn't watch it, right? But you're going to see the guy had the best year of his career last year. He is a phenomenal player, and I'm excited, man.
I said you have to get Paul George. No matter what happens, I said if you get Paul George, I think, and you get some depth pieces, like Al says, this is the deepest team in the past 35, 40. It's definitely the deepest team I've seen as a fan. I mean, I started watching, I think it was the worst season ever where they won less than 10 games. That was the first season I was like, oh, well, this is a great first season.
The tank year, the Sam Hinkie years, man.
Yep. But, I mean, in that entire time, it's the deepest team I think. You have guys that could be who's going to be the sixth man? Is it going to be Gordon? Is it Drummond? Is it going to be Kyle Lowry? Is it going to be
the sixth man? Well, that's going to be the interesting part. What's this lineup going to look like, right? Who's going to be the start? Is Oubre? Are you going to press Oubre into that starting lineup, or are you going to make him your sixth man? That's what it's going. I think that's what we're going to have to look at, right? I mean, and I think that's an interesting scenario. What they do. Al says this is the deepest team in the last 35 to 40 years. Al, I'm curious, man. Your opinion, bro. What is Oubre a starter, or is he your sixth guy? Who is Caleb Martin your sixth guy? Right? I think one of those guys had. Obviously Drummond it is your backup to Embiid, and we know that, but we just know how good he can be, right? It's something that Joel lost 25 pounds, supposedly in the best shape of his life. They talked about a regimen, a work regimen, where they're going to try to keep his knees under wraps. And again, you could say what you want, but they have to, right? They have to. And Tyler, I will say this: you're too young for this now, but you'll find out one day, hopefully for Mrs. Mroz. But now that he's having a second child, right? And when fatherhood comes about, the first time it's huge, right? But the second time it grounds you even bigger. And when you have a girl, if you're a girl dad, that's even bigger. Okay. So I think looking at that and looking at his mindset, I think it just completely shifts. And I think that's why I'm really excited for him this year too.
I guess you see it with the dad power. Who is it? Football or baseball? One of the sports had, whenever they went on maternity leave, they had a kid and they came back and they just had dad power. I just know how big it is. I'm not a dad. I hope I'm not going to be a dad anytime soon.
Don't say hope. No, don't say hope. Yeah. Don't let Mrs. Mroz hear that. But
eventually, in time, but not right now. Not right now.
That's
no
funny.
Way. I got student loans to pay. But I know how big of an impact it is on people, and especially athletes. That motivates them to play better. But so, yeah, I think having a second child, it's definitely a huge factor.
Really is, man. It really is. And I think it's going to be huge. I think Rich says, I think Oubre might be the sixth coming off the bench, which I love. He says, Al says, I would start Kelly Oubre. I think I would start him too. I'm going to be honest with you. Just looking at this team, and I think that just gives him not only the confidence, but I think it gives a good chemistry, man. You're talking, you're starting Maxey, you're starting Paul George, you're starting Embiid, you're starting Oubre. I mean, just oh my God, like that is a really deep team, man. It's a really deep team. So I'm definitely excited. Yes, Martin can start sometime too. It will be about matchups for him. I actually think you could see Reggie Jackson start every once in a while. I do. I think that Nick Nurse. One thing about Nick Nurse is he's very insightful when it comes to lineup control, and he does like to mix things around. He does like to do things different. So I think that's key. So I think we'll see a lot of different things this year for sure, man. But hey, Tyler, man, we're gonna take a break. I got Carlin coming back in about 10 minutes. I got Renee Washington coming on at 8:30. We're gonna get back into Phillies talk in the 8 o'clock hour. But man, shout out for hanging with me for the last like hour and 20 minutes, bro, man. I love it. I love it, man. Like we it's a good conversation, brother. I appreciate it.
We got good conversations anytime we get on. So I appreciate you having me on as always. Anytime you want me, I'll be here.
I know that, brother. I know that's right, man. Keep killing it as always for HRS and for the fresh slate as well, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right,
there
sounds
he
good,
is, man.
Appreciate
Tyler Mroz checking in. That does all our stuff for HRS, for Heat Ratio Sports, our pregame, our postgame for the Phillies. He's done some collaborations, which is great, man. Doing a fantastic job. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back in about 10 minutes with Carlin. Straight from the Wells Fargo Center, right from the court for the Sixers. He is the beat reporter for USA Today, covers all things 76ers. So he's got some really good stuff to talk about. And then we're going to flip back and we're going to finish up our last hour with Phillies talk. We're going to bring on Renee Washington live from PHLY Sports, does the post game with Jamie Lynch, does the Phillies podcast with Jamie Lynch. The bro, as always, she's fantastic. So I'm sure you'll like her as well. So we'll be back here live from Pike's Pub in about 10 minutes. And we're back right here live from Pike's Pub, as always, on Monday nights. I'm your host, Tony Cutillo, from Heat Ratio Sports. Make sure you're following Heat Ratio Sports on all social formats. We're live right now on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, everywhere you can get a live feed. That's where we're at right now. We are getting to, right now we got the Yankees on. Checking into this game. We got tons of Sixers talk we were talking about, tons of Phillies talk, obviously, tons of Eagles talk. We got the great Renee Washington coming on in about a half hour. We're going to talk all things Phillies, all things game 3. We're going to relive what her thoughts were in game 2, obviously, and we're going to talk about game 3 and the Ranger Suarez question. 2 big questions: Ranger Suarez, Jose Alvarado. Can't wait to get into them. And shout out to Tyler Mroz for joining me for literally like the first hour and a half. We broke down a ton of stuff. As always, tuning in with Rich and Al. Always with the comments. Fantastic. Javon, really appreciate it. You keep the show going like you always do. Again, right here at Pike's Pub. Make sure you're going on social formats and following Pike's Pub, Facebook, Instagram. You can follow all their entertainment and their daily food specials right here. And you come down here, have a drink with me. It's not a real drink. It's only iced tea because I really don't drink alcohol, especially when I'm working. So, but I had the pleasure. Right now, the Sixers are opening up their preseason schedule down at the Wells Fargo Center. And earlier today, I had the great pleasure of speaking with beat reporter Kai Carlin of this Philadelphia 76ers. He is of the USA Today. He's been covering them for many, many years. We talked about the Bahamas. We talked about the team. We talked about the future. He joined me right from the Wells Fargo Center earlier. So I'm going to play that interview in a minute. It's only about 10 minutes long. You'll hear a lot of good questions. You hear me and Kai going back and forth talking about this Sixers season. Then when we're done, we're going to gauge right back into some Philadelphia Phillies talk, speaking about going forward and this big must-win game coming up, and get Renee Washington on. Like I said, she's going to join us live, audio only, so we could talk about, her thoughts on what the game is. She covers the Phillies for PHLY. She does a show for the Phillies every single day with Jamie Lynch, does pregame, does postgame. She does a ton of other things too. So trust me, we'll run it down. But here's Kai Carlin speaking of, what about these Philadelphia 76ers that make us so excited, and what are some concerns as well, and how are they going to basically take Paul George and Joel Embiid and rest? Are they going to rest them? Are they going to do the Popovich thing, right? Like he did for many years with Kawhi. Are they going to do no back-to-backs? There's going to be a lot of rest. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of rest for the Sixers in the regular season. So here's what Kai had to say earlier today when talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. Everybody, do an exclusive right here on Heat Ratio Live. I'm your host, Tony Cutillo, and always joined by some of the best writers in the business and reporters, because this guy does it all. And we're speaking to Kai Carlin. Make sure you follow him at Kai_Carlin. This guy's been in the Bahamas. He's actually at the Wells Fargo Center right now, getting ready for the preseason game, and he's dropping all kinds of knowledge on his X account. So make sure you check it in. But Kai, man, it's been a long time. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Tony. It has been a while. Thank you for having me on.
As always, man. You listen, I say this all the time. You hear me say it, I'll say it again. The beat reporter for any team is the hardest job in the world, and I respect the hell out of these guys for what they do. But I will say this, man, had to be a really cool time. You got to go to the Bahamas for spring for training camp. How fun is that?
I'll tell you what, it definitely beats Fort Collins, Colorado, where we had to go last year. But no, the Bahamas was fantastic. I didn't stay at the resort, the Atlantis resort. I obviously went there for practice, but I wanted to kind of see the country a little bit. So I stayed in downtown Nassau. I got to go to the beach. I got to try some Bohemian food, Bohemian rum, all the while continuing to cover the team as best I can. The Bahamas was definitely one incredible experience, and I was so happy I was able to, be able to have that, type of experience with me.
That's awesome, man. I love it. I mean, listen, when you go to, towns that may be cold and damp and rainy, and now you're going to the Bahamas, man, it's a cool thing, especially like you say, you get to enjoy, the other end of your life too, man, because you do have a life besides this. But speaking of life, man. The Sixers, obviously, we know the storied off season. We know what happened. But what's your overall feeling with this team? Because I said last week, I think they're in a really good spot because you have the Phillies going on, you have all the stuff going on with the Eagles. Nobody's really talking about the Sixers, and sometimes that's good for them because the expectations and stress levels aren't as high.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, obviously the city is so wrapped up in the Phillies, and I mean they just had a hell of a game two win.
Ooh,
Shout out to Detroit Tiger legend Nick Castellanos, um,
yes.
being able to pull that out for the Phillies in game two, and then obviously the Eagles are in full swing. Said that like not a lot of people are kind of they kind of seem to forget that the Sixers are actually getting ready to start. Opening night is October 23rd. Obviously preseason game against New Zealand. Getting ready to tip off. So it's going to be curious to see how the city kind of welcomes this team in because obviously Joel Embiid kind of is the poster child for like this city and the love they have for their sports and how hard Joel works and how hard he tries on an everyday basis. Then you got Tyrese Maxey, who's a rising star in this league. The huge addition of Paul George. Obviously, you can't talk about the Sixers without mentioning Paul George. That's a huge addition for Philadelphia going forward. But as they head into the new season, the big question is always going to be, are they going to be healthy come April? Because that is always derailed every single Sixer playoff run. It feels like in the Joel Embiid era. Was Joel going to be healthy? Is now Paul George going to be healthy? Because he's another one that has a play, an injury history. So
Yep.
like those are the big questions that have to be figured out come April.
And that's a good point. I mean, it's like we say all the time. It's like, unfortunately, we say, is Joel, and specifically, is he going to make it? Is he going to be okay? Now, it says, and you've seen him, and but you've seen him up close. I'm just seeing him on camera. It said he lost like 20 to 25 pounds, and he looks really good in shape. They have a plan for his knees and to keep him healthy. Are you seeing the same kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he came in on media day on September 30th, and he said, "Yeah, I've lost 25 to 30 pounds." Seeing him in the Bahamas at training camp, he looked lean.
Uh,
He didn't participate in scrimmages, which I guess is Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey and the trainers, the doctors who are their plan to make sure he's ready to go for the playoffs. That's the biggest thing, right? Because
yep.
nobody's going to care about him scrimmaging in October as long as he's ready to go in April. When the games matter the most in April, May, and June. So yeah, he didn't do any scrimmaging at training camp. I don't anticipate him playing too much in the preseason. Like maybe a game or two out of the 6 they have on the preseason schedule. So because the big goal is to get him ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's always the goal, and hopefully that continues to we continue to go down that positive path. Again, we're speaking to Kai Carlin. Make sure you're going to follow him at Kai_Carlin on X social forums. He covers the Sixers as editor of Sixers Wire for USA Today. He's all over the place. He's always online, popping with the biggest news and some of the news, Kai. About the offseason and. Wasn't just Paul George. It was bringing in specific pieces, like veteran pieces, like an Eric Gordon. We keep hearing the youngsters, the rise of Jarrett McCain. We hear a lot of things. I covered Ricky Council last year down at the G League and watched them excel up and knew that this kid was an absolute talent. I mean, just looking at those specific pieces, are we going to be, a little more excited with some of these pieces coming off the bench instead this year?
I think so. I think one guy that you didn't mention was actually Reggie Jackson, um,
Yes.
a guy who they picked up. He was with the Denver Nuggets last year. He won a title with them in 2023. He got traded to the Charlotte Hornets. Then the Hornets, obviously, they're a rebuilding team. There's no really real need to keep him. They waived him. Philadelphia picked him up. So he's going to team up with Andre Drummond and probably form one of the better two-man games off the bench. A lot of people seem to forget those two were very dynamic in the pick and roll game with the Detroit Pistons. I mean, a lot of people forget that, they won 44 games, I think, in 2015-16 with Jackson and Drummond leading the way. They were an 8 seed in the playoffs and they got swept by the Cavs, but they gave LeBron James and the Cavs everything they could handle in that series. So I think the biggest thing for the Sixers, if you have Jackson and Drummond running things off your bench, which I'm sure Nick Nurse is going to want to have those two in tandem off the bench a good majority of the time. So I think that's going to be something to really watch about the preseason, something to watch all throughout the regular season, and it's kind of could be like maybe a sort of secret weapon in a way, for the bench unit in the playoffs. They're both proven guys, and it's going to be very curious to see what happens. Eric Gordon, you just mentioned him. I think he's entering his he might be entering his 27th season. I mean, the guy's old, but the guy knows how to produce, right?
Yep.
I mean, he's been productive his whole career. So he played a really good role for the Phoenix Suns last year off their bench. You mentioned Ricky Council. I'm not sure if Council's ready just yet for a regular rotation spot, but I do believe mid-season, like just continuing to get the reps, he's going to be okay. And I also think Jared McCain actually might spend some time actually down here in Delaware.
Nice. That's good. That means not good for him, but it's good for me because I'll be jealous. I get to see him. So it's pretty cool. But listen, you make a good point about Drummond and Jackson because, you hear, going from a baseball perspective, you hear Rob Thompson always talk about battle tested. He always says battle tested, right? When you get veterans that are battle tested, experienced, that understand the role, especially on a team that's in win now zone, right? This is win now territory. That's huge. I forgot how good they were in Detroit, to be honest with you.
Well, because it's Detroit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, now listen, I'm a Michigan native, but it is Detroit at the end of the day. So, I mean, look, I think now Drummond hasn't been past round one in the playoffs in his career, but he has been there. He's been to the playoffs. He knows what it's like, right? Jackson, obviously, he won that title with Denver in 2023. He was a huge part of that LA Clipper team, along with Paul George, that actually made the Western Conference Finals in 2021 when Kawhi Leonard went down. That's the only conference final team in Clippers history, actually.
Wow.
And it was really Jackson and George leading the way. So, the fact that you were able to have these guys on this roster now, it's important. And even Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's another guy, a huge part of the Miami Heat in the last couple of years. Obviously, George is the headliner of this offseason, and as he should. We're talking about a borderline Hall of Famer and everything he's been able to accomplish. Paul George is fantastic. But I mean, these other guys I just mentioned, like they are, they're going to be just as important to this team's success.
Yeah, they really are. Again, we're speaking to Kai Carlin. Make sure you follow him at Kai Carlin, KY_Carlin. He does so much work for the 76ers as part of the USA Today network. And I'll tell you what you just said, makes me bring it back to when the trade goes down for Cat going to New York. And a lot of people were going, oh, they're panicking. Like this team's just getting better. I get it. But what we just talked about, we talked about 4 to 5 different pieces that we're excited about coming off the bench as depth. And I look at the Knicks, Kai, and I'm like, okay, besides their top 5 guys, they depleted everything to make these moves. And I don't know if they're in such good spot that everybody thinks they are.
Now, see, I think they're still in a terrific spot.
Okay.
But to your point, they did move both DiVincenzo and Randall, obviously, to get Cat, right? And before that move, I would have said the Knicks were probably had the most depth in the Eastern Conference because if you think about it, their starting lineup last year that came to within a game of the conference finals was essentially going to be their bench unit like this upcoming season. But now that you move, because after they got Mikal Bridges, DiVincenzo and Josh Hart were going to be off the bench.
Yep.
Like you were going to have a lineup: Brunson, Bridges, OG Anunoby, Randall, and Mitchell Robinson before Robinson went down with the injury. But that was your starting lineup, and obviously you lost Isaiah Hartenstein, and that's a huge loss.
Yep.
But Jericho Sims seems like he was ready to take over that spot. Now though, you move DiVincenzo. Hart probably moves back into the lineup now. Now that Randall's part out of the equation, you probably go with Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Anunoby, and Towns, which is still a very strong lineup. And then you can still go to other pieces off your bench. Deuce McBride obviously killed the Sixers in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and then Jericho Sims and Mitchell Robinson, where Robinson comes back, he's a force on the defensive end. So I think the top 4 teams in the East are still going to be Boston, Philly, New York, and I'm not forgetting about the Milwaukee Bucks. I know a lot of people are because Doc Rivers, I get it, but when you have Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, you can't forget about them.
No, you cannot. That's a great. I said to people all the time, like you can't forget, man. I'm sorry when teams have legends like that and Hall of Famers and MVPs, and you can't because you just never know when they're going to click. Now, last thing, I'll finish up on this. Just talk about. I'm not a prediction guy. I don't want to get into any of that. It's way too early. But just your sense, going into this year about. You have Paul George, who's in his mid 30s, right? You have Joel Embiid, you want to keep healthy. Do you kind of get the sense that these guys are going to be rested a little more than they were last year, or do you think that we could just expect them to be playing all the time?
I think they're going to be rested a lot more, especially because like we didn't even get to Kyle Lowry yet. Kyle Lowry's going to be 39, I think, in March. So I don't think Lowry's going to play as huge of a role this year as he did last year when the Sixers picked him up. And Nick Nurse kind of mentioned that on media day that he really doesn't want Lowry playing as many minutes as he did. I think Lowry played 28.4 minutes a night after the Sixers picked him up. You can expect that number to probably be somewhere around like 15, honestly. Because I mean, Kyle Lowry is still very productive, and that guy deserves all the respect in the world. But I mean, obviously, he's getting up there in age. So I believe that a lot of these guys are probably going to be rested a lot throughout this whole season because, again, it is not going to matter what this team does from October to mid-April. It is going to matter what they do at the end of April, heading into May and June, because that is going to be how the team is going to be judged. And for the first time, really, this is my 8th season. I'm actually getting ready to cover this team. This is the first time ever where I could be like, yeah, they should make the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I never felt it in years past, not even during the Jimmy Butler year. This is the year for me that if they're healthy, they should make the Eastern Conference Finals, and it shouldn't be an excuse, really.
I love it. I love it, Kai. As always, let everybody know. I mean, I saw whether they can follow you obviously at KY_CARLIN. All your fantastic work. What do you got going on like the first 2 weeks of the season, man?
Really just kind of getting into the season. I mean, obviously they open up in Milwaukee, or excuse me, at home against Milwaukee. Then they go to Toronto and Indiana, and then they come home and they welcome Tobias Harris back to Philly on October 30th. And then I head out to LA for the return of Paul George to the Clippers, and then the LeBron James Lakers. And it's just like, you just kind of head into the season like that.
Yeah, man. Listen, it's great. I love it. I'm gonna get you out on a really fun note here because I know I've seen you on Instagram dropping some threes from the 3-point line, right? So they just had 3 open tryouts for the Blue Coats. So I was wondering, man. I went down there on the one that was at Chase Fieldhouse. Is like, I thought Kai was going to be down there trying out, man.
Absolutely not. I'm not in that nearly type of shape to be able to do any of that.
Hey, man, you and me both. But, you got a nice stroke. I watched it. You got a nice stroke, man. As always, though, man, we appreciate it for joining us. And listen, man, February, end of January, February, I'll be back on Sirius every Sunday. So I'd love to reach out to you, see if you can get on, talk some NBA at night and have some fun, man. I appreciate it.
I would love that. Appreciate it, Tony. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Have a great day, man.
Thanks, man.
There he was. Kai Carlin, man, covers the Sixers for USA Today. A lot of interesting stuff there, man. A lot of interesting stuff about rest, right? Again, remember that when you get your tickets this year, right? Remember when you get your tickets this year because there's going to be a lot of rest games coming up. I can tell you that for these Sixers. Al says, I forgot you were called back. I was watching the game. I'm going to go back and listen to the whole thing. Al, great interview, man. He was really good. Give you really, really good stuff right off the bat, man. Talking about these players. I'll have it podcasted on the Heat Ratio Sports YouTube page, so you can check it out as a standalone file as well. Kai, Rich, Kai's the man. I love when Kai comes on. He's always been a great friend of the program for years. No matter how good he gets, man. No matter how big he still comes on, which is a blessing for me and for the Heat Ratio Sports family. And speaking of blessing, man, how about Tariq Skubal in 2 starts, 13 innings pitched, 7 hits, 1 walk, and 14 strikeouts, giving his best impression of Cole Hamels from 2008. That Tariq Skubal, man, is lighting it up for the Detroit Tigers, man. I'll tell you what, man, you talk about magic, right? You talk about magic. Everybody's talking about magic. Detroit's got a little magic in them too. I know everybody's talking about that magical Mets, but what about those magical Tigers? Right? We shut down those magical Mets in game 2. We shut them down, right? And we're going to have Renee Washington join us in about 15 minutes from PHLY Philly to talk about game 3 and getting back because, we got some more people in here. Right here again at Pike's Pub. We're live from Pike's Pub. I am Tony Cutillo, your host. To go up until about 9 o'clock. We got a Monday Night Football game on, right? We got the Chiefs and the Saints. I got 2 bets right on this game, so hopefully I hit them. I'm going over 59.5 rushing and receiving on Kareem Hunt, and an IDP bet that I love to do. Okay, that I love to do by Mr. Cook on the other side. Okay, which is the safety for the Chiefs at over 5.5 total tackles. I love to do the IDB bets. So yeah, Rich. So we're checking an eye on that. We got the Yankee game on, obviously. Checking in on that as well. Right here, 455 Second Street Pike at Pike's Pub every Monday night from 6 to 9. You can come here live or you can check in live. But listen, we got 140 people watching right now online, commenting and getting involved. Make sure you get involved as well. Heat Ratio Sports is the YouTube channel. Make sure you get over there, you subscribe, and you check in for all the fantastic content that we are offering there for free, by the way. Richard Drummond, my man Richie D, checking in, says Tigers got that heat going on unbelievable play right now. They really do, man. And I just want to keep that heat going for the Phillies. Let's keep that heat going for the Phillies. And Rich, I don't know if you joined late or you joined earlier, but I want to get back to the original question, before we dial up Renee and bring Renee in here and get her insight. And I want to bring up the Ranger Suarez question. I want to go back to the Ranger Suarez question that, Rob Thompson came out today, a big decision on Rob that said Ranger starting game 4, no matter what. No matter what happens, he's starting game 4. So I really want to get everybody's ideas about that. Are you good with him already saying that no matter what, I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to go back to Zach Wheeler. It's Ranger no matter what. And I think, again, I think it's something interesting to really look at because it could go either way, right? There's 2 big questions going into this game. Is Bryson's thought, is he going to start? Or is Topper going to do the same? He sits against lefties because it's Mania. Or Ranger Suarez, is it right to say, he's starting game 4 no matter what? And do you use Jose Alvarado? Right? Do you because remember, it's not one batter anymore, right? He's not coming in for one batter. He has already shown in the high leverage situations that there is an issue and he's not being used. That's why I went with Schramm. So do you see Alvarado? I'm going to ask Renee these questions. I want to hear what she thinks, but I want to hear what you think as well. Check it in, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're at Twitch, wherever you're at right now, whether you're on X, it doesn't matter. If you're one of those 145 people watching right now, or you're here right now at Pike's Pub, there's a live mic already wired up if you want to get on it, tell me what you're thinking, but are they the right calls? Number 1, is Ranger the right call for game 4? Do you start Bryson Stott? I do. I think that you give the kid, listen, the kid had an unbelievable game, right? He's one of the best second basemen defensively in baseball. He can steal your base when you need it. Stop with this experiment about he can't hit lefties. This is the postseason. Get his ass into that lineup, keep him in the starting lineup, and keep that confidence going. That's the way I feel, man. Right. Al, 100%. You have to play the Gold Glove. Why, why is this not an issue to people, man? He should be starting no matter who is out there. I don't care if he hit 245, but again, he has pop. Do we still hit 11 and 13 home runs? He's still not getting 50. He stole 20 something bases. I don't understand. It's not like it's chump change out there, man. It's not like it's chump change. So I think that's a really interesting decision. We'll see what Topper decides. Al says this kid has shot well in the game so far, and I know you're talking about Jared McCain because the Sixers are playing right now against New Zealand out there at the Wells Fargo Center. But you're right. I listen, Al, you know what I say all the time, bro. Not only can he shoot, but when you come from an Ivy League school or whatever school it is at Duke with that lineage, right? With that program, come on, man. like at the end of the day, like they are going to be good players at because of their mindset, because of their acumen, right? It's just putting it all together on the court. So I think they said he practiced a ton on his 3-pointers, and he 3 or 4. You see it already tonight. So got a really good stroke. Rich says about Ranger Suarez. I think Ranger will be on a short leash and use the bullpen if Ranger goes bad. Stott should be out there starting no matter what. It's the playoffs. I agree 100%. Man, look at that. Wow. Look at that move. Wow, that's a Monday night. Alvin Kamara is an absolute rejuvenated beast this year with the Clint Kubiak system, man. Or Clint Kubiak, my apologies. Alvin Kamara just went right and left, covered the whole entire field, went from a 5-yard loss to basically a 10-yard gain and picked up a first down. Look at Derek Carr out there on the block, right? I mean, come on, man. You got to give these guys some props when they're there. By the way, I have no bets on Kamara tonight, which is surprising, but we'll see what happens. Al says Ranger deserves at least a shot. Wow, there he is again, man. There he is again. Or no, that's Williams, right? That's Jerome. So again, they got a nice 1-2 punch out there, and I'll tell you what, man, the Saints are sneaky on offense. I've been saying it. I came in this year, not to get off track. I know we're talking Phillies, but this game's on and they're driving. And I came in talking, man, if you don't know that name, Clint Kubiak, again, the son of Gary Kubiak, the longtime Houston, Texas, Denver Broncos, and both of those, guess who they were taught by? The man North Turner. And you could say North Turner was terrible as that coach, but he was one hell of an offensive coordinator. And they are running the North Turner system right now in New Orleans. So that's going to bode well for you fantasy players out there and you sports bettors if you have a lot. Rich says, everyone thought Kamara was done last. Yep, I thought he was done. Right? You know how that ship sinks on those running backs, Rich. But he's rejuvenated, man. He's rejuvenated because Kubiak came in and said, yo, we are going to put you in play again, man. We are going to put you in play. The interesting part is, see, that's interception, man. See the Derek Carr. Why do you run? You run so well. Wow. What kind of they just threw that up there, man. That's terrible. That's a terrible play by Derek Carr. On the road, not protecting the football. It's an interception on the field. Wow, exactly. Awful pass, man. Awful pass by Derek Carr. And that's when people say Derek Carr being Derek Carr. Did he get it? Oh, by the way, who do we put the IDP bet on? Mr. Cook. Brian Cook, right? There he is. Showing up as always. Rich says it's the same. I don't understand. You're running it down their throats and you throw it. Exactly. Why go away from Kamara? Why go away from Williams right there? And why throw that pass? Right? I mean, off your back foot in the air, just ridiculous. Just ridiculous, man. Ridiculous throw. I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all, man. I do not like. Now you give. Oh, did it count? No, it's now you give Mahomes. Give Mahomes a ball to go for the 20. And see, there were a lot of talk about Mahomes not being the guy anymore, but I think people have to relax a little bit, man. Like, this is still the guy. You say what you want. I'm curious to see what they do in the backfield. And there it is, Kareem Hunt. Like I call Kareem Hunt will be the guy. All you need to do is see one Carson Steele fumble, and that's it to give the ball to Kareem Hunt. Now, give it a ball. We talked about, let's get to the other end of the bullpen. As we bring Renee Washington on soon to talk about the Phillies in Game 3 for a preview for tomorrow. What about Jose Alvarado? What do we do with Jose Alvarado? A guy that's shown to be dominant, but shown to be completely erratic, man. Like, I think it's going to be one of the biggest decisions for Rob Thompson in this postseason. When and if you use Jose Alvarado, and there goes Patrick Mahomes, man. There goes Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things. As always, doing Patrick Mahomes things. But exactly, Rich, he's so erratic, but he has electric stuff. And the biggest thing, I keep saying about this Jose Alvarado issue is it's no more one batter and get out, right? The rules for the bullpen are completely different now, right? And we have to really worry about if he comes in and he gets erratic, guess what? You can't take him out, right? You can't take him out. So Al says, I think you only use him with no men on base. Yeah, I agree, man. Low leverage situations. Low leverage situations is when you use him. That's the only time you use him. Now, looking at this game on Monday Night Football again, we got dual screens going. We got Monday night. We got live. We got Mahomes driving almost at midfield. I'm curious to see if Kelsey gets involved tonight. Again, I predicted a pretty lackluster year from him, and it's showing already. I think, listen, they're going to fall in love with Kareem Hunt again, man. Andy Reid loves Kareem Hunt. He just loves him. And why not? Right. Except for the fact that, he did what he did. And, I'm not a big fan of players that, beat their significant others, but he does come back and, he gives them a presence that they probably didn't have. Right. Everybody was Samaj P. Ryan is going to go Carson Steele. But again, you leave it to the veteran in Kareem Hunt. And there's a play to the Pro Bowler and Travis Kelce getting involved. No Rasheed Rice. Will Xavier Worthy come out tonight and blast off? I know some people got some bets on Worthy. Why not? Anytime touchdown bets going on Xavier Worthy. It will Juju. I almost bet the Juju play tonight too, by the way. His over 1.5 catches. Not like I'm a big Juju guy, but somebody got to catch a couple balls, right? Besides Kelce. So, who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll see who gets involved. But they are driving almost at midfield. They are driving and almost at midfield. It's minimum of 3. Exactly, Al. So get back to baseball. It's minimum of 3. So I think you want to know what you have for him with the first 2 batters. And that's the problem. When you have to face a minimum of 3 batters and you bring a guy that's completely erratic and completely wild and loses control, it's a problem, right? I mean, you have to remember, I don't care how fast you throw. If you throw a 95 mile an hour, 99 mile an hour baseball with no movement, somebody's going to smack it, especially the guys and the power that is on the New York Mets. And I am going to give them credit because they do have some tremendous power. Okay. So you really, really have to be careful with using Jose Alvarado. So I'm curious. To see how they use him. I really am. And I want to see if Bryson Stott starts tomorrow, man. I still, you got to go with the glove. You got to go with the glove. I think he earned it. I think he deserved it. And I'm going to be a little perturbed if Bryson Stott is not in the starting lineup. We're going, yeah, exactly, Rich. When you leave 95 over the plate, these professional hitters don't miss, man. And don't think that top rank. Look at Kareem Hunt. Looks like he never stopped playing football, man. It's amazing. Like right up to go. I might hit the bet in the first half. Over 59.5 rushing and receiving. Very, very, very simple. That was an easy play. I mean, and I love betting R&Rs, man. I love betting R&Rs. Listen, they are at the 20 now, driving. And I think before we even get Renee, I think they're probably going to score before we get the next guest on, which will be pretty cool. Because I like to see a nice anytime touchdown bet hit right here, 100%. Let's see, but Mahomes drops back. He rolls out, man. Kelsey is going to be a marked man tonight. He is going to be a marked man tonight. He called already. Oh, wait, no, that's Noah Gray. He's throwing the tight end, the athletic tight end, Noah Gray, getting involved. They got 2 guys, Noah Gray, Justin Watson. They come off the block. Listen, he just finds the soft zone, man. Like he is right there in that soft zone. That's what he does so well. Mahomes moves, gets, the blocker comes off. He sneaks out in the back. Typical Andy Reid. And now let's see what they do. Do they throw or do they run? I think they're going to run it on first down with Kareem Hunt. Or maybe they throw a jet sweep. Now there it is. And Hunt goes in. Hunt is in for the touchdown. Very, very simple. Very, very simple, man. If you're following earlier, you hit the anytime touchdown bet, you had the profit boost, and you're on your way to the rushing and receiving number at 59.5. Let's see. Did his knee get down before a cross? No, he's in. He is in. Kareem Hunt is in. So a lot of happy bettors out there for Kareem Hunt, man. I love it. I love watching Monday Night Football here. How did Hunt have a job? Yo, you know how he had a job. You know how he had a job, Al. Again, or how did he not have a job? No, you know what's so funny? There's always those certain players, right? Always those certain players that go out and they just go to one specific team or one of the other teams, you know what I mean? And they just come in and they produce. And that's what Kareem Hunt's doing right now. And I said that Carson Steele was one fumble away. Andy Reid gave him a shot and he fumbled. That's it. You're barely going to see Carson Steele, man. So all those people are, Carson Steele's the next Mike Allstott. Carson Steele's the next Peyton Hillis, right? Yeah, there's a name for you, Cleveland Browns. But again, everybody thought he was going to be it, and no, wasn't going to be. Wasn't going to be. Yeah, great. Renee just checked in. She said she's going to see us soon. Can't wait to get Renee Washington on with us, talking about tomorrow's game, reliving that Philly Classic yesterday, and speaking about what we expect to happen tomorrow. No predictions, just talking about what the Phillies got to come in and just ride this energy, man. Right? Rich says, bringing back Bryson Stott, only have 4 errors all season. Now, there's a great stat check right there. Okay? Only 4 errors all season long, best in Major League Baseball. And you're sitting him. Against left-handers. Come on, man. Stop it. Like, you got to stop. You have a lineup. That's what I understand. Like, we shouldn't even have to worry about Bryson Stott. You have a lineup with JT, with Trey Turner, with Bryce Harper, with Nick Castellanos, right? With Kyle Schwarber. Why are we so worried about it? Like, again, like this guy, what he gives you is a bonus. Man, what he gives you is a bonus. If he hits above 250, it's a bonus. If he hits 15 home runs, it's a bonus, right? And that's what I keep saying, man. And that's what I don't understand. I don't understand why it's such an issue. He needs to play, and I'm going to be highly upset if he's not in that lineup when that scorecard comes out. But I just got a bad feeling Topper is going to go back with Sosa and what he's done all year, and I'm not going to be happy, man. I'm not going to be happy, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy. I really don't. I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy, and rightfully so, right? Rightfully, it's the playoffs. You got to do something different. Now, again, I'm not talking about pitching Zach Wheeler for 150 pitches. Because that would be absolutely ridiculous. Okay, because what if to all the people that say he should have kept pitching, what happens if you had to use him in Game 4? You couldn't, right? What happens? This is a 5-game series, not a 7-game series. So what if they went to New York and they lost tomorrow? And what if Topper says, no, you know what? It's not about Ranger Suarez. Okay, again, what would you do? You already threw his arm out. He's not even available to pitch now. Okay, people don't look past that, right? I get it. Listen, I would love to ride him, man. He was pitching his ass off. I love it, right? I would love to ride him, but guess what? At the end of the day, you have to think it ahead. This is still the NLDS. It's not even the championship series yet, right? This is NLDS, and I know devil's advocate. People are saying, well, you got to get there first. I understand that. Right, I get it, but I just think that you have to really be careful with what you do with these guys' arms early on. I do and it's we're not talking about taking them out after 80 people. It's 115. Okay, and the reason why they lost that game is because we couldn't get a hit. Okay, again, Rich says, and I agree, Rich. Listen, if this is the World Series, then you send them back. I hope pitch 150, 160 the World Series. I don't care. That's different. But not in the NLDS, man. Not in the NLDS. I refuse to do that for him in the NLDS. It just can't happen. Just can't happen. And again, you're right, Al. Bryson Stott's triple was huge in that game. You just knew it was going to happen too, right? You just felt it. Right? You just felt it. You kind of felt like this is the moment, right? This is the moment. You got everybody 42,000 plus singing this song, right? Which is it's so amazing that it's just the atmosphere. You can feel the electricity coming through the camera. You can feel it coming through the TV, even if you're not down there. And then you just knew something was going to happen. So yeah, something that we'll never forget. Right, we'll continue to talk about it. It was a classic. Rich says he's got all season to rest after that series. Exactly. He's got all season to rest, man. Rest him then. Rest him then. That's what we do. Rest him then. Right now, we got live on the line. We got a special guest joining me again, man. I love it. Joining from PHLY Sports, we got the wonderful Renee Washington. You can follow her at Renee PWASH. This is the first time she joined me. She's very, very great with her time. I'm extremely blessed to be able to have someone of her expertise on everything at PHLY Sports, but most importantly, the Phillies and the Union. Renee, welcome to the program. Oh, she dropped. She'll be back. Audio, sometimes it happens. Technical difficulty. Sometimes it happens. She will be back. She will be back. As we wait for her to get her connection back and stable, Al says 115, 120 is more than enough. We didn't lose because we took him out. We lost because we didn't score enough runs. All right, I think we got Renee back. Renee, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. We got you.
You know what? My AirPods did me so dirty. I kid you not. I was connecting my AirPods and the thing, it booted me out. So apologies.
That's from all the work. That's from all the work that you're doing. Oh yeah. Listen, are you still are you recovered from that instant classic yesterday or what?
Oh my gosh. Listen, the Phillies, I'm so glad they grinded out that win, but that gave gray hairs, aged us a little bit. The ups and downs of that game was a lot, but thank goodness they won. It makes it a classic because they won. Had that been a loss and they go down 2-0 in the series, then that game it was just awful. So yeah. I'm recovering.
And you just said that awful. Like I said in the 6th inning, I'm done. Like I can't. Like it's just I'm not that I gave up, but just saying if this ends right now in this game, it's over. And I cannot believe that we wasted this entire year to lose against the Mets and at home, especially that, you know?
And that's what I've been saying. Listen, we all know that this team has the talent to win the World Series, but we also know it's very difficult to win a championship in any sport. So it's not a given just because they were the best team in baseball the first half of the season. So if they're going to lose, do not lose to the Mets. And definitely don't get, like, to me, if you drop game 2 now, I'm worried about a possible sweep. You know, you can't – there are teams, like you look at the Padres, and especially the Padres, I'll say, that are playing so well right now that if the Phillies were to have a very competitive, you know, a long series, you end up losing, okay, I might be able to sleep a little bit better at night than if you lose to an NL East opponent in the Mets. We just can't have that. So I'm so glad that they got the win yesterday, and now the series drastically changes heading back to Citi Field. Some momentum, the offense feels like it's coming around, and it does feel like things are moving in the right direction after squeezing out that win yesterday.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? Again, on the Roger Rack Media Hotline, we got the great Renee Washington at Renee RENEEPWASH on X from PHLY Sports. She does a fantastic job. She does everything. Sideline reporting for ESPN. Like all you need to do is go to her X page, and her clipped or pinned profile is her reel. So it's remarkable work. She's been joining me for years, and I'm blessed to have her on. And she does a great job with Jamie Lynch every day. They're talking Phillies. And, you know, speaking of that, like looking at this game 3, the one thing I keep asking everybody was, number one, we saw Bryson Stott last night. Tremendous to get him off the side with that triple. What does Topper do? You know, all year, Renee, he sits them against lefties. Is he finally going to say, no, he needs to be in, or is he really going to get us all up in a crawl and start Sosa tomorrow?
I know. We were talking about on our show today. And first of all, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate all the phenomenal work that you do as well. It's great to see. To your point, though, this is a tricky one because it also is going to be a bigger question even with pitching. It's a question with the bullpen rotation. There's a lot of things that we're keeping a close eye on around what Rob Thompson is doing. It's the playoffs, though. You cannot play this the same way you would have played this series had it been in the regular season. To me, don't ice out your own guy. And I do think, and I said this earlier, and I'm going to keep saying this, learn from Nick Sirianni and the Eagles. Don't try to coach cute. Don't try to overthink things. Keep it simple. Go with the hot hand. Bryson Stott on his birthday gets the go-ahead 2-run RBI. He had some phenomenal defensive plays. Leave him out there and let the game dictate whether or not he deserves to play. Don't you limit him and ice him out. I think after yesterday's game, absolutely you start Bryson Stott game 3. Had it been a situation where he struggled, totally different. He didn't go 0 for like like we've seen other guys struggling, Alec Boehm being one of them. Even Sosa. Sosa gets to start for Boehm, which I was okay with. Rob was mentioning he's an energy guy. He wanted to change things up. Obviously, Boehm's been struggling. Sosa goes out, gets an error, doesn't give you anything offensively. His at-bats weren't good. You have to go with who's playing well. From the bullpen to the starting lineup to the pitching as well. I feel most confident in the starting pitching. But in terms of the starting lineup, I'm leaning on Bryson Stott until he shows us differently.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like my thing is, how do you take that confidence away from him? I mean, this is a huge confidence builder right now for him. And listen, my whole thing is the drop off, Renee. Am I nuts? But is it really that bad? I mean, he can steal base when you need. He's got a Gold Glove. One of our listeners, Rich, said he only had 4 errors all year, which is the best in baseball. Like, I don't get. I think, like you said, I think he's overthinking it. I really do. Now, on the other end, in the bullpen, one of the biggest questions is the Jose Alvarado question. Like, do we even see him at all? He just showed last night they're not going to put him in high leverage situations. And now with this whole new 3-batter rule, it affects everything, because if he comes in and he can't get nobody out, we're in trouble, especially in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, to your point about everything, the hard part with Rob and his staff is they're so analytical with their data. They're so heavily leaning on scenarios, and sometimes you got to go throw strategy out the window and go with your gut. Go with what you see, what the eye test is showing you. And we saw it with Bryson Stott. I would love to see him start game 3, and I would also love to see the bullpen get figured out. Listen, the bullpen is struggling because it does feel like, and we were talking about that as well. I mean, this has been a constant conversation. The 2 areas were the offense and the bullpen. Offense actually got some runs. Thank you, Bryce Harper, for opening things up. Actually get some home runs, actually get some runs, actually get some small ball going in game 2. Now it's the bullpen. They gave up 10 runs across 6 innings between games 1 and 2. This is a bullpen that was one of the best in baseball. You look at their numbers on the season. I mean, between them, I think they've given up about 10 home runs on the season. And for Matt Strom, Orion Kirkland, and Jeff Hoffman specifically, I should say, not everybody else. So when you have your big 3 go out there and struggle the way that they did games 1 and 2, some of that is the rust. It's the fact that they, bullpen, much like all positions, but definitely even more in baseball, very routine, needed to get going. And I'm hoping game 3, they're going to be back into some sort of a rhythm. Jose Alvarado not pitching in that situation where we saw Jose Ruiz come in after Christopher Sanchez was pulled 88 pitches in 6 inning, 2-0 game. I'm leaning on Jose Alvarado or Orion Kirkland. So I'm not quite sure why in that scenario you go to Jose Ruiz, who in my opinion is like just an innings eater, low leverage guy, not someone you're leaning on in a 2-0 game where you're down already in the series and also chasing the game. Because thank goodness it was only the solo home run that was given up to Pete Alonso. It could have gotten way worse. It could have been similar to that 8th inning we saw game 1 that they gave up 5 runs. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with the bullpen in terms of rotation, but also in terms of just the rust. I think the rust will get figured out, but I think that, again, the staff, for Rob and his staff, don't overcoach this. They are very big on they have their rotation down in terms of whether the game is up, whether they're down, who's pitching, of who's coming in next, and they have this rotation that's already kind of pre-planned, it feels like. Don't do that. Go with the game, go with the momentum, and go with the fact it's the playoffs. You easily could have gone down 2-0 if you don't get out of that game with Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos tying things up. That literally saved the season. So don't put your bullpen in a situation again where they're called on and you're kind of setting them up to fail. Jose Ruiz should not be out there in a tight game situation like that. I don't care if the Phillies are up or down. We should not see Jose Ruiz. Period. He's been pitching well all season, but that's just not the space for him come postseason time. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, to be honest, Tony, but I'm hoping that after these first 2 games, it's been the wake-up call. This team is very talented, yes, but you still have to go out and win it. This team is defeating themselves. You can't just sit back and get cute and expect to win games.
Isn't that so true? Everything you said, man. Like I honestly, and the Ruiz thing, it just boggles my mind. But to your credit, like you said, I mean, this guy, yes, he's been good all year, but I don't know. Like Topper falls in love with certain guys sometimes, and like he fell in love, with was it last year with like Nick Nelson or
Oh gosh.
like Pilati or whatever? Like, always throws this guy in there, and I'm like, why? I don't understand. I don't understand why it took Estevez out. Like
exactly, he'd only thrown 8 pitches. Let him go out again. There was no reason to pull him out. Another thing that we talk, it's so easy to point the finger. I'm glad you brought that up. It's so easy to point the finger and question Jose Ruiz. But Carlos Estevez coming out after just 8 pitches, and this is why he's on the team. You got him at the trade deadline to acquire him as a closer, as a high leverage guy. And in that moment, after just throwing 8 pitches, you already knew what you were going to get from the rest of the bullpen. Go to Estevez. Give him a shot. We didn't even see him game 1. Game 2, he was pitching just fine. I honestly, we had our post-game show yesterday, and we're like, to be honest, Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, and Bryson Stott not only saved the season, but may have really saved Rob Thompson, because it already looked bad enough. There were 3 strikes, and Mundo Sosa gets to start, and we all understood why, but then goes out and gets an error and gives you nothing offensively. Jose Ruiz comes out, which, to be honest, you could have let Christopher Sanchez go another inning. But okay, you know what? He's young. He only had pitched 1 postseason game prior to yesterday, and that wasn't a good showing against the Diamondbacks, where he only made it 2 and like 2/3 innings. Okay, understandable. But the next guy up can't be Jose Ruiz. You've got Alvarado. You've got Kirkring. You've got plenty of options. I'd even go to Tanner Banks first. And then the 3rd strike was Carlos Estevez, only pitching 8 pitches. So I'm thankful they got out of that with a win. But you cannot continue to have these types of tactical mistakes.
That's a great point, man. And I just like you, and I know you are, and I am. Listen, I love Topper, but there's times where it really makes you scratch your head a little bit, and you have to think, like, number one, sometimes, like my man Rich checking in says, you got to go with your gut. You do. Like, sometimes you got to go with the eye test. I said all the time. My man, hey, you got to answer this, Renee. I'm not going to answer. My man Al checking in says, is she from Philly? She sounds like.
I don't know how to take that, to be honest, Al, but thank you.
Yeah. You're one of us, Renee. That's what it is.
I know. I am. So no, I'm born and raised a Jersey girl, but I played soccer at LaSalle University, and I've worked and lived in Philly ever since I went to college there. So even when I got done playing professionally and everything, I've stayed in the Philly area. And I've always been a Philly sports fan through and through, growing up as a Central Jersey girl. So I didn't claim New York teams. Ugh. I've always been a Philly sports girl. So to now be at this point of the postseason, we've also, beyond just the Phillies, we've seen this so much in our experiences over the years of Philly teams getting to the playoffs and beating ourselves and doing, overthinking things, too many little mistakes that catch us, and have a Mets team that is surging. They've been one of the best teams in baseball. I hate to even say it. One of the best teams in baseball in the second half of the season. I saw the stat, 44 comeback wins this season, leads the league. They've had 3 of those in the postseason. That's all 3 of the games they won, the 2 wild card games and game 1 of the NLDS, all comeback games. They are a late game team. So you have to have your late game big dogs pitching and your bullpen ready to go against them. We saw them do it to the Brewers. Yep. And the Brewers, who, for them, you have Devin Williams, who he's been untouchable, unhittable, gets into the playoffs, gets into the game 3, and gives up a home run. That 3-run homer to Pete Alonso. We saw it again with Matt Strom and Jeff Hoffman. They have been getting after teams' closers, after teams' high leverage relievers. So you can't then add fuel to the fire and give them even more ammunition. Their eyes were lighting up when Zach Wheeler left the mound. And they did again when we saw Christopher Sanchez come out. That's why Brandon Nimmo was rounding the bases talking. Did you hear about that, Tony? Rounding the bases talking trash about, like, where's Sanchez? Where's Christopher Sanchez? You cannot let the Mets come into your house, our house at Citizens Bank Park, and have this type of a win. It's unacceptable. So I'm from Philly, and I say all that to say, like, it pissed me off that this is a 1-1 series.
Exactly. Oh, you have no idea. Like, it angers me as much. And I started by opening this by saying, look, sometimes, you do have to, in this business, you have to tip your cap to the other play. I hate to do it. I know it's the Mets, but listen, they're a hot team, right? They're what we did a couple years ago is same kind of thing. But man, like they come in here and get completely embarrassed in the first game where your number one ace just pitches a gem and you can't even get him a freaking hit, right? I mean, like
Embarrassing.
it's so let me ask you about that, Renee. And again, we're speaking to Renee Washington at Renee PWASH from PHLY Sports. She does the PHLY Phillies and Union. You catch her with the bro, man, Jamie Lynch, doing some great things. The show, just so everybody knows, you don't have to be on a dial to have some really good content out there, just so everybody understands that. And I will say this, Renee, look at it, you know, the way they handle Wheeler, I was a proponent of. You know, a lot of people were saying that he shouldn't have taken him out. And my question to those people were, well, if they didn't take him out, then what happens if you did want to use him in a must-win game 4? You couldn't use him, right? And part 2 of this question is Topper coming out saying, no matter what, Ranger's my guy game 4. Like, what's wrong with that? Yeah, see, I know, right? That's crazy.
So, okay, there are levels to this. The first thing is, I was okay with when Rob came out Friday afternoon and said, Christopher Sanchez is pitching game 2, Aaron Nola is pitching game 3. I applauded that. I 1,000% agreed. The home away splits alone. I mean, Sanchez's numbers, his ERA doubles from like a low 2 to a 5, home versus away. It's been remarkable how different it's been. And it's a huge sample size. So it's enough to know this is the reality. This is not a fluke. Not to mention Aaron Nola, Mr. Calm, Cool, and Collected, as much hate as he might get from people in the city, he is the guy that is never going to change his emotion and can handle the loud chaos of Citi Field in game 3. So I was okay with that because you know you're going to get Aaron Nola pitching the same way home or away, but you could not put Christopher Sanchez on the road with how poorly he's pitched in comparison to his home splits. So I was okay with that. But to announce Ranger Suarez is going to be starting game 4 no matter what is a little bit eye-opening. That could be a possible elimination game. Let's call it for what it is. There's no guarantee the Phillies are going to go out and win game 3. Do I think they should? Absolutely. Do I think anything is possible? Also, absolutely. This is the Phillies we're talking about. We've seen worse. And also, yes, 2023. So I do think that's a bit premature. And I know that would require Zach Wheeler to pitch on one less day of rest. But if the season's on the line, if the Phillies it's even hard to say this. If they're going into game 4 down 2-1, you mean to tell me your ace, Zach Wheeler, who just pitched one of the best playoff performances we've seen in baseball history, not even just for a Philly, but in baseball history, you're not going to turn to him in that must-win situation? I don't believe it. I don't buy it. Not to mention Rangers been up and down ever since coming off the IL and honestly the second half of the season. So do I think Ranger has potential to come out and be the same Ranger we saw that got him an all-star bid and had him as one of the top pitchers in the season in the first half of the season? Sure. But do I also think there's a potential he can come out and be awful? Also sure. So I don't know why immediately put that out there because you did pull Zach Wheeler, after the 7th. He did pitch 111 pitches though. Very high pitch count, but it's the playoffs. Like I hate to. If this is the regular season, totally understand. This is win or go home. So at this point, if you don't try, I think I'd rather lose trying to go with your best players than to try to save them. Because what are you saving Zach Wheeler for? Okay, he gets an extra day of rest. There's no guarantee you have a game 5. So what are we saving him for?
Well, maybe hold on. Maybe do you think I'm sorry, I was cut you off, but it's on my mind. But do you think maybe he would utilize him out of the bullpen in game 4?
No, I don't think. See, I'd rather you start Zach then for that reason because if you need, here's the thing: it all depends on what happens game 3. The Phillies go out, take care of business game 3 tomorrow night. This is not even a conversation. You can rock with Ranger knowing if you need to go to a game 5, you've got Zach Wheeler on the mound. Period. But I don't think it makes sense to make that announcement before we know the result of tomorrow night's game. You have no idea what's going to happen. You might have to pull Ranger early and it become a bullpen game. And now Aaron early, and now it's a bullpen game tomorrow. And then you don't want to have to risk overtaxing your bullpen and going into game 4, possibly needing them. There's just so many scenarios that it doesn't make sense to be so quick to make that decision. I understand the trust in your guys, but I also understand more importantly, we're talking about the playoffs. We're not talking about the regular season. That's true. We're talking about the playoffs to put my Allen Iverson hat on. So I I don't know what's going on with Rob. I don't know if he's trying to do this to instill confidence in the guys and show that he believes in them, because this is not the time to do that. You do that all season, you do that all 162 games. But I do think, to your original question about Zach Wheeler, 7 innings pitched, 111 pitches, 30 swings and misses, 9 Ks, literally cemented himself in baseball history for one of the best playoff performances, and the Phillies didn't win. Like, all of that gets overshadowed. But sadly, we've seen this all season from Zach Wheeler. He started out 0-3 with a 3-something ERA because the Phillies couldn't give him run support. The last 2 games against the Mets that he started, should have won, didn't get run support, and the Phillies lost. So for whatever reason, I don't know if it's too much tinkering, complacency, too much trust in Zach. The Phillies do not give Zach Wheeler the run support that he deserves.
Yeah, it's almost like I can't remember what year it was, but remember they did that to Cole Hamels, right? Remember,
good point.
Or he runs for Cole, no matter how good and his record was like 500 at best. It was like, no, his record's actually better than this, but they don't score any runs. It's crazy. Al, I'm going to call Al. I'm extremely upset now because Al he checks. He says, Tony, I love her. Right?
Thank you, Al.
Al, how did you not hear about her? See, this is the problem. Right, this is the problem with the media today, man. I can tell you right now, and I'm not trying to make Renee blush, but the people, that you haven't heard of are better than the people you have heard.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna throw that out there for real, and you know that. Like, I first had you on probably like 3-4 years ago, but
it was the pandemic. I actually remember we were on lockdown.
Check that out, 2020, 2021.
Yes.
It's crazy. And I've watched. I still you go to Action News and maybe finally you find a home at PHLY, because I always say this, man, like people, I don't know what it is, Renee. This business is crazy. I don't know what you get passed over for so many different things. It could be race, it could be ethnicity, it could be politics, it could be because you're not in the right friend group or you don't know this. Like, it's crazy. I don't think people understand that. I'm just so glad. So Al, I'm telling you, you need to start following her today if you haven't, and you talk soccer. Like
yeah.
You realize how educated you are on the union, right? So that's another thing we'll get into another day. But listen, I don't want to keep. I'll keep you on this. I don't want to ask for prediction. I hate predictions because it's not. But what would you say tomorrow? Like, what has to happen tomorrow in the first half of this game for you to feel good and be like, all right, I feel like we're not coming home.
The Phillies have to.
We don't have to come home to win. I'm sorry. I
get that. The Phillies, in my opinion, in the first few innings, they have to score like 5 runs. You've got to be up. You've got to be +5, I'm going to say. Because the thing is, you cannot keep, whether it's 1 run or 2 runs, whatever, you cannot keep the Mets around. You have to put them away. And that was one of the most frustrating things about Game 1. I know it's so easy to blame Hoffman, Strom, and Kerkering for giving up the 5 runs. And yes, I agree. That was really bad. Your job is to come in and hold them scoreless. Your job is to come in and throw strikes. And you couldn't do it. But you had a leadoff home run and nothing else offensively until Cody Clemens RBI. You can't do that in the playoffs. You're not going to win games. The math is mathing. You can't win games if you're not scoring, period. You've got to score runs. You've got to get hits. The Mets have been small balling the Phillies to death. That first game, it was like 5 singles, 2 sac flies, and a walk. It wasn't pretty. They were squeezing out runs. You've got to be able to hit the ball into gaps. Nick Castellanos walk-off. What did he do? Just spray the ball into left field and bring Trey Turner home. You don't have to have this homeowner bust mentality. Get your singles, get your walks, do whatever it takes to keep the inning alive, play small ball, and score runs early. And if you are able to score runs early on the Mets, I think that you take the life out of them. I think you deflate them. But the longer you keep them hanging around, they are like that annoying little brother. You have to go on and beat up on them when you can. Do not let them hang around. So I think if the Phillies go on offensively, I don't think it's going to matter for the bullpen at that point. I think the bullpen's going to have a little bit more, to be honest. Game 3, I think they're shaking the cobwebs off. I think they're getting back. September was a really good month for the bullpen, even though around the All-Star break wasn't. They bounced back and ended the regular season strong, got back into some nice scoreless showings. So I think that they're going to get back now that it's Game 3 and can be that team. Stop tipping your pitches. whatever's going on there. But I think it's down to the offense, to be honest. Give your guys some run support. Put the Mets away, and I think they can win Game 3. Because to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous if this goes to Game 5.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. That's why I said we're not coming home. We need to win it in New York. I don't want Game 5s are like Game 7s, man. You have no idea what can happen. Anything can happen, and what we've seen this year. Anything can happen. Well, you're getting some fans here, Renee. I'm going to follow the show. Rich says I'm following her baseball and soccer. She's awesome. I'm glad, man. This is what we do this for.
I love this.
So you can uncover the gems that are out there. I keep saying it that you don't even know about. See, following all that mainstream stuff. So
listen, there's a lot of us out here covering sports like you do, Tony, where we are legitimately following, covering, talking sports. It's not clickbait. It's not hot takes. And I think for me, like I always try to let people know, much like you do, like we talk every sport. Yes. You know, I played professional soccer, so I have a direct connection to soccer. I work with the NWSL as one of their analysts. I do cover the MLS, but also we're talking NBA, NFL. You know, I was watching all the Sunday football in addition to watching the Phillies Mets. You know, we're talking baseball. We're talking hockey just got started. Whatever sport, WNBA playoffs are crazy. The Aces are not going to be in the championship for the first time in a few years. No. Whatever it is, we're talking about it because we're just sports junkies that just love what we do. And I applaud you for all the incredible work you continue to do. This is fantastic.
Listen, the feeling is mutual. The feeling is mutual. Before I let you go, let everybody know, man. I know we've talked about it. You already got some people following. What's coming? Like, what's the week of Renee? What's going on tomorrow for that game?
Ooh, it's a crazy week, actually.
Yeah,
so tomorrow for PHLY, actually, if anybody's interested, we have a live show that we're doing at Carlin, the Port Richmond location on Indiana Avenue. We'll be doing live pregame and postgame shows, and then we're also gonna have a live watch party. We're gonna have like Miller Lite specials. Their food there is phenomenal. They've got this delicious kielbasa cheesesteak that is to die for. It's so good. Oh yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
I never heard of that.
And it's like it's very meaty. It's a lot there. It's, you know, sometimes you get a lot of those sandwiches. It's a lot of bread. No. It's the Witter-Wadowski. They've got the Witter-Wadowski. It's so good. It's a kielbasa cheesesteak. So we'll be at Carlin tomorrow for Game 3. Whoever wants to come, it's a free event. You're more than welcome to come hang, watch the Phillies, hopefully win. And then Game 4, we'll be doing our pregame and postgame shows as well. I also have some college games this week. I've got a couple ESPN games and an NWSL game or two. So it's going to be booked and busy as always. It's the overlap of the sports, October is, and I love it. You get playoffs, you get the start of some other seasons, and it's just chaos and busy. So I'll be there, and hopefully for everybody that I just had a chance to connect with all your great followers, definitely hope that we can continue to connect because we got more things in the works, Tony.
We always got things going on over there. You know how we roll, man. You got to stay busy. Man. And you have my word. Once I get, like, right now, I'm like every third Saturday on Sirius, but when my show comes back full time every off season for basketball, you know, I'll be hitting you up, get you on there as my basketball person. You Carlin on my peep. So
I've got some college hoops coverage, and I'm going to be doing PHLY Sports. Plus, I'll be jumping on with the Sixers guys. I know, Al, you said those are your boys. I'll be jumping on with Kyle and Devon and them this winter.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I love it. Well, Renee, as always, thank you so much for joining me. And again, make sure you're following her at RENEEPWASH from PHLY Sports. Let's go, Phils. Hopefully we watch a win tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Have a great one. Let's go, Phillies.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. That's Renee Washington from PHLY Sports. I'll tell you, she's fantastic. You know, if you don't follow her, make sure you follow her. I continue to say it, man. You know, you get some really good people in this business that know some really good stuff. If you just sit on a dial all day long, you'll never see the great people that are out there busting their ass, dropping some fantastic content every single day. But we're going to go, man. It's been a great show. Shout out to Carlin from USA Today for joining us for some fantastic sports talk when it comes to the Sixers. Renee Washington, who we just heard talking about the Phillies and what's going to go on tomorrow. And then the first hour, my man Tyler Mroz, where we covered all things Phillies and NFL. Man, it's been fantastic. Can't wait. We'll be off next week. I'll be back here at Pike's Pub the following week with some more great guests. As always, some more great content and some more, hopefully, talking about the Philadelphia Phillies in the championship series. And we get to break that down as well. So everybody, as always, be safe, be healthy, stay safe. I stay healthy, I should say. Have a fantastic night. Go Phils. Screw the Mets. We're not bringing this home, man. We're going to win it in New York. Everybody have a great night.